Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We have the Beer Street Journal 200 here from the famed Richmond International Raceway in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, tonight we come to the 3/4 mile short track here. Puts on a great show each and every year in the National Sim Racing Association. We saw a great race last year. We thought Chris Darling was going to go to victory lane. Ended up not parking it in victory lane. Maybe we'll see if he can have a little bit of retribution here tonight at Richmond.
Yeah, I know this is one of Chris's favorite tracks, and he's shown a lot more consistent pace all season thus far. Not quite, I think, where he would like to be in practice, but I don't think that actual optimal single lap time's really going to have too much of a say here tonight at Richmond. I think it's going to be one of those deals of who can be quick but also save their tires the most. Whoever can do that is going to end up with a pretty successful race.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We will definitely have to watch these drivers here as they work their way around the racetrack. There is Doug Neal and the number 77 machine. He is currently in the 9th position here in practice. There's your reigning series champion, one of your MaxGrafix family drivers, Mitchell Adams, right there in his Chevy Silverado. He is currently 4th position on the board here tonight. Big shout out to everyone in the chat here. We just hit 900 subscribers here on 3Y TV this week. Big shout out to every single one of you in the chat who is, of course, a big fan of everything that we have to offer. Speaking of things that we have to offer here tonight, we have the point standings entering tonight. And I know, Drew, we talked about these just prior to coming live, and up at the top, Mitchell Adams, Gracias, Darling, Poole, Andrew Himmelman, Houseman, and Lorello all locking themselves in with wins, but then it's a really tight further back, battling for those last few spots in the chase.
It absolutely is, and folks, we're getting pretty close to cutoff time here. Richmond, including tonight's race, which obviously has yet to be run, only 4 races till the chase begins, so really starting to get to that point where these guys are going to have to start worrying about points, and because there's 4 races left, there's a very real possibility, based on what we've seen this season, and not having a ton of repeat winners, that we might get more than 10 winners by the end of this deal. And if that were to happen, Peter, of course, then the guys with a win would have to worry about points as well. So a really interesting situation. And plus, Peter, 2 of the guys with wins, if they miss another race, and I don't think that number 1 truck of Jason Gracias is here tonight. He is not. So if Jason Gracias doesn't qualify tonight, then he is cast aside and the points window changes even more.
Yeah, that is very, very true. You do have to meet a minimum number of starts here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series if you do want to be eligible for the championship here as we go along. We got the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams out there on the racetrack right now, working his way around turn number 3 and 4. He's going to start his time lap here, Drew, and you can see those times at the bottom of your screen. Mitchell Adams, Andrew Himmelman, Jeff Price, Monty Glover Jr. all out there on the racetrack. We're looking at Andrew Himmelman. He's been really fast here in qualifying as of late.
And that 8 truck has been really quick tonight. He led the vast majority of practice with the 8 car and another driver going faster just at the end, Ben Izinga in that 07 truck. So it'll be interesting to see as times are coming in now. Mitchell Adams, 3/10 up on Andrew Himmelman, and I really don't think that second lap is going to be great. So I don't think Drew Himmelman will be too happy with that qualifying lap. Doug Neal right now in 2nd position, just over 1/10 behind the 49. Oh, and Drew Himmelman makes me eat my words about the second lap. He puts it into the 21s. Dio and James Dorello, 1 ups him, or 1 lesses him, went down 1/10 of a second, took a 1/10 of a second off of that 8 truck's time. Ben Izinga slots into 2nd place, and Peter, we're getting a whole bunch of quick lap times coming in right now.
Yeah, definitely that is true. Jamar Dumas, Chris Darling, look at the number 11 machine, just put himself up into the top 5 in the number 11 truck. We'll be keeping our eyes on him here tonight. There's Jamar Dumas inside the top 10. Philip Scott inside the top 10. Vincent Valvano putting himself just outside the top 10. He's currently in the 12th position. Tristan Maher, though, in the number 17, going to jump up to the top 5 in his 17 truck. So some fast times coming in. There's the 55 of Steven Doziak.
Yeah, and Peter, we didn't really talk too much about Richmond, the track itself. I really think it's a driver's track, especially turns 1 and 2, and even 3 and 4. I saw a ton of guys get loose center off, especially exiting 2 because that exit's so tight. I think it's going to present a real challenge for these guys to, kind of ride that line of letting that thing unwind out of the corner and kind of letting it step out and not get too tight, but also keeping that thing under control. And I think we're seeing a lot of the guys that we view as being some of the best drivers in the league, basically making up our top 6, and really good to see that 17 up there as well after his great run at the Roval. I think that a lot of those kind of skills, being able to be precise, knowing where your apexes are, and then being able to handle these trucks off of kind of slow corners, I think that's really going to pay off for that 17, and we've seen the pace out of him tonight.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. So time here just now running out. We have a couple minutes left here, folks. Just having some technical gremlins. But I'll tell you what, Drew, we have seen some fantastic racing here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. And Stan Hausman, the most recent driver to get to victory lane last week at Atlanta.
Yeah, and a fantastic race last week at Atlanta as Stan Hausman, I think, took home probably one of the most popular wins that at least we've broadcast here in NSRA on these Friday night broadcasts. But yeah, outstanding. I mean, kind of a really unpredictable season almost. Only 2 drivers with multiple wins. A lot of the drivers from last year not necessarily being able to repeat their form. The guy that comes to mind is that number 9 truck of James Zarello, our pole sitter for tonight. He only has 2 top 10s here this season. Peter, only 1 top 5. That would be his lone victory. And that 9 might have himself in a good position, especially if he obviously makes the rest of these races. But we really haven't seen the form from James Zarello that we saw for the vast majority of last season.
Yeah, that is definitely true. The number 9 machine has not had the same levels of pace that we saw last year. However, he is currently fastest here in the qualifying session and looks like he will be set to pick up tonight's Craig Setup Shop Pole Award. Big shout out to Craig Setup Shop for sponsoring each and every pole award this season here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. And we will have to see if he's going to go for the all-important Buttkicker Challenge here tonight. We'll get to talk to our current pole sitter here in just a moment here on 3 Wide TV. As you can see, the race is now, well, we're going to have a 5-minute warm-up session. And we have to ask questions to tonight's Craig Setup Shop Pole Award winner, James Zarello. See if we can get him down here into the 3 Wide TV booth. Then, Drew, why don't you talk to James Zarello here tonight?
James Zarello, Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Man.
Well, James, a really outstanding qualifying effort in that number 9 truck. The real question on everybody's mind is, Buttkicker Challenge, yay or nay?
Oh, heck yeah. Let's do it.
Outstanding. So what do you view as the biggest challenge taking up the Buttkicker Challenge?
I think getting through that, I mean, it's a long race, so I feel good about that, but getting through it clean and not getting any damage is going to be key. So got to take my time early and not do another Chicago, which was the last time I took the challenge.
Yep, very, very true. Well, James, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Maybe get a couple laps and warm up here. Thanks for talking with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing the action out on the track you're going to provide us.
Yeah, man, it's exciting.
All right, well, we'll let James go back here tonight to his Silent Syndicate racing team. But, Drew, going to be really exciting here tonight to hear James Zarello charge through the field, picking up that Buttkicker Challenge. We highlighted a couple of drivers of the last couple of weeks trying to do it. They have not quite been able to pull off the Buttkicker Challenge, but here tonight, maybe Lorello can do it. It's going to be quite a charge through the field here on the short track.
Yeah, I would think that kind of the races that we have run thus far this season, I mean, this is about as challenging of a place to take this up as possible. Maybe Martinsville would be harder, but yeah, this is going to be a real big challenge for that number 9 truck. But, you know, all credit to him for being willing to take up that challenge and give up a track position at a track that I think is known for valuing track position. So it should be a ton of fun seeing that number 9 truck make his way up through the field.
Yeah, that is definitely the case, and it is going to be a lot of fun here tonight, folks. Let's see if we can go down there onto the racetrack. There is Tristan Maher in the number 17 machine, fastest here in the warm-up session that we have going on. Only 11 drivers have taken time, make that 12, as Evan Buschbacher in the number 94 machine has taken time. New truck to the series here in that number 22, at least 22 on the side of Evan's machine, but got number 94 on the scoring pylon. There you see Evan Buschbacher right there, out of Liverpool, New York, sitting on pit row, waiting to go green here in just about 2 minutes from now. How's it going in the chat here tonight, folks? We got Stay Tuned Sports. Said, don't listen to me about the Buttkicker there, James. Jerome Frawley saying, let's go Kyle Lewis. Sicky J23 saying, let's go what number was that? That was, let's go number 23. William Kerwin saying, another Evan. Yes, indeed. Tana Himmelman saying, going to be a fun night. Stay Tuned Sports saying, doing another giveaway this week. Well, Stay Tuned Sports, why didn't you let the people in the chat know about the giveaway that we have going on? William Kerwin saying, I thought last week was Talladega. It was right here on 3Wide TV. Stephen Doziak saying, I just want to survive. Adam Thomas saying, where are we at this week? Richmond, Adam. That is where we are. Thanks all of you people joining in on the chat here in 3Wide TV. Like I said, we just hit 900 subscribers. We're climbing our way to 1,000. So why don't you share the link with your friends and folks? If you're one of these drivers, especially, share this link, and maybe you can get some of your friends and family rooting you on each and every week here on 3Wide TV. We love to have them, as you can see right now. Just about 30 seconds left here, Drew. And one of the things that Stephen Doziak said was, I just want to stay out of trouble. And I think that could be one of the keys to winning here tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging, though. There's just not a lot of room to avoid problems that happen in front of you, especially on that backstretch. It's fairly narrow, as we're going to be able to see these guys as they exit out of turn 2. There you go, folks. There's not a lot of room. If a car spins off to the inside, he's going to bang off that inside wall, and probably his momentum will take him back to the outside. And so it can be a real big challenge. There can be some really big wrecks on the backstretch here at Richmond, especially with the iRacing physics that tend to really emphasize the preservation of momentum, I guess. But, folks, here we go into the race. Starting on that pole position, we talked to him earlier. That is that number 9 truck of James Dorello, Ben Izenga in the 07. A ton of pace tonight. Can Ben Izenga pick up his first victory tonight? Drew Himmelman in that 8 truck, another truck, displayed a lot of pace with Mitchell Adams, our 2-time defending champion, starting to his outside. Tristan Maher in that 17 truck will start P5 with Nathan Maurer in that 971 starting P6. Chris Darling, I think going into tonight's session, one of those guys that we're going to have our eye on all night, tends to do really well in the long run. That number 11 truck will roll off in 7th position. Doug Neal in the 77 in 8th. Matt Cherry in that number 6 truck, again, a guy who I expect good pace from tonight. He will start in 9th position. And Travis White in that number 23 truck, rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, and in the 11th position, Jeff Price in the number 14 machine. Jamar Dumas will be starting to his outside on row number 6. Looking a little bit further back on row number 7, Philip Scott, Vincent Valvano right there. Ben Adams and Justin White, row number 8. Stephen Doziak Jr., Evan Burke, row number 9. And rounding out your top 20 here tonight, Evan Buschbacher and Todd Kirkwood there, Drew.
Kyle Lewis in that 18 truck in 21st. Matt Vanderkoy in that number 60 truck 22nd. Monty Glover and Garrett Gleason are number 23 and 24 respectively, with Brian Bradley, Nicholas Bradley, and Jason Shore. Sure, we'll go with sure. Rounding out our field. And Peter, these pace laps go by mighty quick here at Richmond, and these guys are getting ready to go.
Yeah, and of course, the one driver who's dropping to the back of the field is the number 9 machine, James Lorello, trying to go for the Buttkicker challenge here in the number 9 machine. Was your pole sitter brought to you by our friends over at Craig Setup Shop, but because he is taking that Buttkicker challenge, he will have to start tail end of the field here tonight. Definitely going to be a fun one here at Richmond International Raceway. As we're not on lap number 2, the touring pylon will sort itself out. But looks like, Drew, they've added on an additional 66 laps here tonight. It was going to be the Beer Street Journal 200, but not sure where the additional 66 laps came from. But it's showing up there, 266 laps here tonight.
Yeah, I believe they're going by pure mileage. Most races at Richmond happen by lap count. This one will be by mileage tonight, as it is a 0.75 mile oval. But green flag is out. Drew Himmelman in the number 8 truck. Not a great initial start. Izenga actually will have just a slight advantage as they cross the start-finish line. But it'll be interesting to see, Peter, that high lane can be really effective here at Richmond, though that's not always the case. This certainly can be a single line track as well. Oh, is the 17 and the 8 maybe made a little bit of contact up front, but they keep it all together. Oh, the 17 loses it. And will that be a caution? It will. Our first caution as they just completed lap 1.
So 1 lap in, and already the number 17 machine goes around. Let's see if we can dial up the 3-wide TV replay here and see exactly what happened to Tristan Maher in that number 17 machine. Here is the 17. Maher working his way through turn number 3 and 4, and yeah, might have been a little bit of contact there with the number 8 of Andrew Himmelman, and I think, Drew, he just caught the apron a little bit, and Maher now going to kind of have to do his own Buttkicker challenge as he loses all that track position.
Yeah, just unfortunately, there's no payday at the end of this deal. If he is able to get back up there, he just made his life a whole lot harder, and that certainly is a thing, especially through these late apexes that you do here at Richmond. You typically are about a half a lane up through corner entry, and then about halfway through that corner, you want to cut it right back down to that yellow line and take a real late apex. But when you do so, there's not a lot of give, and when you clip that apron, because it has, I believe, no banking. If so, there's a dramatic difference in banking between the apron and the racing surface, and it will de-wedge that truck, right? It'll basically take out a whole bunch of wedge, which will loosen you up if I'm remembering my wedge adjustments correctly. And that's exactly what will happen. And there's not necessarily a lot that you can do. Throw a whole bunch of counter wheel into it, but honestly, Peter, that can be a danger in itself, because if that thing hooks back to the right into the field, you got a whole bunch more problems. I think what the 17 there did as far as just letting it kind of lazily spin to the inside is probably the better way to go.
Yeah, definitely is the better way to go. That is for sure. I completely agree. Now, the big question is going to be, how long will it take Tristan Maher to work his way back up through the field here tonight? What about the number 9 machine of James Lorello taking part in that Buttkicker challenge? Can already say that Lorello's picked up a couple of positions. He's already up to the 23rd position in the number 9 machine. And it's a long race, Drew. With it being 266 laps here tonight, it's a very long race. So plenty of time for Lorello to get up to the front and possibly go to victory lane. And perhaps that's what he was thinking in the back of his head.
Yeah, that is a really good point, that this is a much longer race, very likely time-wise, than we have seen thus far this season. It feels like most of these races have gone fairly quickly. Richmond is not a forgiving track. It's a driver's track in the way that it emphasizes the better drivers, and it kind of punishes guys that maybe struggle a little bit more with a really challenging driving vehicle. And so I definitely don't think tonight's going to be light on cautions like we saw with the 17. It doesn't take a lot. It takes, a couple inches to make that mistake and clip that apron. So certainly going to be challenging a ton of laps, and a good point that Lorello might have been looking at that and factoring that into his decision. But Ben Izenga started second, but is leading our field to the green flag here on lap 5. A great restart by that 07 truck. And one of those things that's never very fun, Peter, is when you're the pole sitter and you don't. Oh, I guess not the pole sitter. I thought the 8 was the pole sitter. He just led the field to the green, not the pole sitter, though. But when you start basically on pole position, like the 8 did, as far as actual track position is concerned, but you don't lead that first lap or a lap, that could be really frustrating.
Yeah, definitely can be very frustrating. But for right now, Ben Izenga in the 07 is leading the race. Andrew Himmelman in second, then Mitchell Adams. We got some side-by-side action happening a little bit further back. There's Matt Cherry and the 77 of Doug Neal. Looks like Philip Scott and Jeff Price were side-by-side there for a brief moment, but they have sorted things out. Meanwhile, some side-by-side back here. This is Monty Glover, Evan Bushbosher there in the number 22 machine, at least 22 on the side of the truck, number 94 on the scoring pylon, getting really close there with Ryan Bradley through turn number 1 and 2. And look at your butt kicker right there, your butt kicker number 9 machine of James Lorello. Lorello trying to cut underneath Bushbosher here as they go off into turn number 3. There's contact, and Bushbosher saves it. 3 wide for a brief moment. Good save there out of the 22 machine.
Yeah, I think the 9 had enough there to where I don't think he could have practically backed out once he committed to the inside of the 22. And when a truck's on the inside of you, Peter, you just got to give them the room. You can't just cut across their noses if they're not there, else that's what's going to happen. But a really good save nonetheless from that number 22/94 truck, depending on how you want to score his number. But out front, the number that scored P1, still Ben Izenga, about 0.3 of a second over Drew Himmelman. Drew didn't have a great restart of first few laps, but it looks like he's been just a little bit quicker here as this restart has gone on and on. That last time by, though, Izenga about 1/10, a little less than quicker than Drew Himmelman. But one guy, Peter, that we talked about is the guy that's on screen right now, is that number 11 truck of Christopher Darling. Started 7th position, already up to 4th. And you might be like, well, yeah, it's 3 positions in 11 laps, but most of those laps have come under caution, so that 11 truck's showing good speed, and it'll be interesting to see. I think that 11 is going to be much better on these long runs than on these bursts of short runs that we've had thus far. And if that's the case, and we get some long green flag runs, I think that 11 certainly should be one to watch.
That is definitely the case. We'll keep our eyes on him here tonight. Looking a little bit further back, there's Matt Cherry, Doug Neal, and Philip Scott. That is 7th, 8th, and 9th position. Travis White battling with Jamar Dumas. This is a battle for the 10th position out there on the racetrack. Ben Adams right back behind them, just lurking. Looks like Dumas will take the spot away from Travis White. That's going to open the door for the number 5 of Ben Adams. Adams here has gained 3 positions from the start of the race as well. Trying to find a little bit of grip down there by the yellow line. And Drew, this racetrack is very deceiving, especially on exit of these corners. Very easy to get the power down, and there was definite net code between the 5 and the 23, already roughing each other up here early in the race. But luckily that net code wasn't the cause of a caution, as the 23, Travis White, chased it up the racetrack, and we stay green.
Yeah, it certainly is not typically a very forgiving thing, is that net code, where iRacing doesn't calculate correctly the positioning of the vehicles between those 2 trucks. Basically, it's trying to anticipate where those trucks are by sitting packets between the 2 computers. Nerdy stuff. But basically, iRacing just miscalculates where the vehicles are relative to what the driver actually sees. It can be a really frustrating occurrence. I was in a truck race earlier this week where net code occurred, and there was a good foot between the truck next to me and myself, and we both ended up out off the racetrack. And that's just stuff that can happen. Justin White in that number 2 truck, he is running in 15th position, battling the number 17 truck, who has done a really good job of recovering after that spin. He's in fact in front of James Lorello, that number 9. I gotta think Lorello's being pretty patient here, as both of those trucks are battling their way up into the top 15.
Yeah, we got a quick look there a little while ago. Todd Kirkwood making his Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series debut here tonight. But look at this battle here. Evan Burke, Vincent Valvano, Tristan Maher, James Lorello, Justin White, all kind of locked up in this battle. You see Vincent Valvano there sliding back a couple of spots. He will now fall to the number 9 machine of Lorello. And keep our eyes on those trucks a little bit further back. That is Justin White side by side with Brian Bradley now. And Monty Glover Jr. sneaking into the picture, as is Todd Kirkwood in the 57. So some good racing here, kind of mid-pack as they run. You're not missing all too much towards the front of the field as Izenga's got himself up to a 1.4 second lead as Glover smacks the wall coming out of turn number 2. Here comes Todd Kirkwood, Drew.
Yeah, Kirkwood with the move right there. One thing I just noticed, Peter, not super related to the racing that we're seeing, but it looks like iRacing kind of redid the scrapes and stuff and retextured the what happens when you hit the wall on the side of the truck, and it looks much better than it did before. So good on iRacing for that. Always cool to see those small improvements. A big improvement is the gap between the 07 and that number 8 truck. Oh, as we got a spin in turn 3, a half spin, no caution there. And it's the 00 truck was the one that was caught up right there. Now the caution is out. Justin White has thrown the caution flag there. And so, yeah, Matt, or not, the 141 perhaps? Yeah, so 00 paint scheme. There we go. The very tail end of it. It looks like a blown motor, but it's not. He's still running on track as far as what I'm seeing. But Vincent Valvano involved, Matt Vanderkoy in the vicinity, as was Brian Bradley, Justin White, Todd Kirkwood. Here we go. Oh, so out in front with the 43, and I believe that's the 9 of James Lorello, our pole sitter who took up the challenge. And then I think that kind of caused these guys to try to avoid that and actually ended up getting into each other. Is Vincent Valvano, the number 16, the number 2, and oh, what happens? Boom, the 57 comes in there late. That would be Todd Kirkwood, and the 60 gets some damage as well. The number 2 gets some damage, and quite a few trucks with some significant contact there, Peter.
Yeah, so we're going to have to kind of go back and see what happened here with James Zorello and Evan Burke. We just kind of caught it right there. They kind of chased the truck up the racetrack, and really the big accident happened back behind them. So we'll get another look and see. Here's Vincent Valvano, and I think he reacts to that, and then there's the contact with Brian Bradley, and unfortunately a couple of trucks kind of ending up in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Good job there by Nick Bradley in the number 40 to just kind of slow up and let everything sort itself out. We will see if we can get a quick look on board with the number 40 machine. Here we go. You see the number 9 gets loose up in front from the contact from the 43, and man, you see Matt Vanderkoy get a piece of that one as well. Definitely not going all too good for most of your field. Well, let's see. Oh, there we go. There's Kyle Lewis. Did he get... no, I thought he might have got a little bit of damage there from the number 55 machine. But let's see if we can go back live here. And, oh, nah, not live. There we go. Now we're live. And I'll tell you what, Drew, definitely interesting to see everything playing out there on the racetrack.
Certainly was the case. Of note, folks, the reason that 18 truck is currently our race leader, he did not pit everyone else that you are seeing on the racetrack. Did. Ben Izinga won that battle off of pit road. Not a whole lot of change, in fact, especially towards the front of the field. Doug Neal maybe didn't have a great pit stop. I was honestly watching the wreck with you, Peter. I didn't quite see what happened with the 77's pit stop, but I know he was a little bit further forward throughout the majority of that run. Maybe not a great pit stop for that 77, but it doesn't seem like Kyle Lewis definitely didn't come down pit road. Doesn't look like he's going to pit, so he will be leading the field to the green flag. And one big challenge that number 18 truck's going to have to deal with, Peter, is wheel spin. I got to imagine that's going to be a challenge for that number 18 right here in just a few seconds.
Yeah, that is definitely true. We will wait and see whether that wheel spin comes to fruition or not. Green flag in the flagman's hand, and we are back racing. Definitely, Drew, the 18 not getting going. Ben Izenga going to go around the outside. He's going to take the lead as they go off into turn number 1.
Yeah, not the worst case, I think, for that 18. So, folks, when these tires are really, really hot and they basically have a heat cycle on them like the 18s, they just don't hook up on restarts, and you can get a ton of wheel spin. And then when you get a lot of wheel spin, you can get really sideways and cause a huge checkup, especially on that inside lane, where you just can't really see what's going on very well. So, not worst case scenario at all. But, Peter, another caution out on the track.
Yeah, another caution has come out. We'll have to see what brought this caution out this time. Let's see if we can figure it out here on the 3-wide TV. I do believe it involved quite a bit of the field. So let's see if we can see what happened right here. This is Jeff Price in the number 14 machine. Coming out of turn number 4. Ooh, gets into the wall and, tags the number 17, Tristan Maher. Maher gets hit from behind. The 40 gets involved. Monty Glover gets involved. Justin White gets involved. A bunch of trucks here tore up on this accident. Nick Bradley was involved. Let's go back a little bit further. Let's watch the number 40 machine. In fact, let's go on board with the number 40 machine. You'll get a look here of everything that went down in front. There's the initial contact, and tries to get on the brake and just couldn't see anything there in the smoke. Tries to get on the brake there late, and unfortunately ends up going into the number 14 machine, and that puts us back under caution, and quite a few trucks receiving a significant amount of damage in this one, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the guys that received damage in that wreck were guys that already had damage from the previous one. Right now, focusing on that point. Look at that number 9 truck, James Earl, or pole sitter. Just kind of lucky. Had he been a couple positions up or back, he might have gotten caught up in this as well. But yeah, I mean, that's 7 trucks, I believe, that got caught up in that, Peter. And for a field of 27 trucks, that's pretty substantial. We probably have close to 10 trucks with significant damage now at this point, as that is the number 3 of Jason Shore right there. He That's what you got to do, folks, right here. I like what the 3 did. Just slow the heck down. Just slow down. That's okay if you lose a couple positions. Your truck's fine. And a really smart heads-up drive and maneuvering right there. Just decision-making, as a matter of fact, by that number 3 truck. But a ton of torn-up trucks and just caution after caution early. But what this, I think, is likely to do is kind of weed out a lot of the guys that are having these problems, and I think we're going to get some really long green flag runs in towards the hopefully later stages of this race.
Yeah, let's go on board with the driver who's partaking in the Buttkicker Challenge here tonight, James Lorello. There is the initial accident. He just drops down to the low side of the racetrack. Great heads-up driving there by a driver of the number 9 machine. Let's see if we can jump back live here on 3-wide TV, because we are under the caution flag, and some of the field just now kind of doubling up for a potential restart, although it doesn't look like we're going to restart this time, Drew, because the pace car lights continue to stay on. Let's go check out the 3-wide TV chat here tonight. Stay Tuned Sports saying, is this a replay of last week? LOL, just kidding. We did not have a lot of cautions last week at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Adam Dama saying, hey, I was a recruiter by Kirkwood. Kyle Lewis saying, is my paint not looking right? I don't know. Is your paint looking right? I don't know what paint it's supposed to be, but it is the Flash number 18 machine that we saw that number 18 run so well with at Talladega last week. I think incorrectly said Atlanta last week, but it was Talladega last week. All my weeks are just running together, folks. It's just, I think, that time of the year where you're right in the middle of the year, Drew, and just time is flying by, and before we know it, it'll be 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of like, what, were we at Atlanta last week? I don't remember that. And then I looked at the schedule. I'm like, oh, Talladega. Okay. There we go. We're back on track, folks. But and these guys have to get back on track as well. The lights are out on the pace car. Drew Himmelman to the inside of our leader this time. Izinga choosing that high lane. It'll be interesting to see a really good restart by that high lane. And can this open the door for Christopher Darling to follow that 07 truck? Not quite, though. He's going to try to make a move to the outside of Mitchell Adams. That's going to be challenging, but a really good center off run by that number 11 truck. But 1 and 2 tends to favor the outside a little bit more than 3 and 4. It'll be interesting to see if that 49 can hang on the bottom. He's just struggling on corner exit, and there we go. Chris Darling moves up to 3rd position. I think he was held up a little bit that last run by Mitchell as those laps develop. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out now as our field slowly kind of filtering back to single file here. Now looking at Philip Scott in that number 99 truck. passing Nathan Maurer right there. That should be for seventh position right there. We'll have to wait. There we go. Yeah, 6th position for Philip Scott. Started in 13th. A really good move forward from that number 99 thus far.
Yeah, and also fantastic job so far for driver of the number 9 machine, going for that butt kicker challenge here tonight, trying to be the first driver to win the butt kicker challenge and all the money that goes with it. I think it's up to $50 here tonight, Drew. So, that's enough money that you have to go for it. You have to go for it when it's $50. That is a significant payday. If the number 9 of Lorello is able to win the race here tonight, he will receive $50. And at this present moment in time, Drew, we're only 36 laps in, and he's already back up to 9th. So 9th position for the number 9 machine right now as they run right behind the 77 of Doug Neal, behind his teammate, the 971 of Nathan Maurer. But you're not missing anything up at the front, as it is mainly single file right now. Let's go back and check out Ben Adams. He's looking to the inside of number 43 of Evan Burke back here. Evan Burke with the Verizon 5G Chevy Silverado right there. And back behind them, Kyle Lewis trying to get to the inside of Evan Bushbosher in the number 22/number 94. Right there on your screen. They're side by side coming out of turn number 2, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, $50 can buy a lot of Taco Bell. That's all I'm thinking about when I see that $50 flash across the screen. So a little interesting to see if James Zarello can capitalize on the Buttkicker Challenge, what he does with the $50. Probably none of our business, but maybe he buys $50 worth of Taco Bell. That's probably what I would do. Interesting Austin Cindric kind of scheme for that number 43, especially considering it's on a Chevy. And just kind of cool. I wish Verizon would go back to their old Penske scheme with Allgaier back in the Nationwide Series, I believe it was then. That was always one of my favorite, the check mark on the side scheme. Really good looking machine that number 12 truck was, I believe, way back when in the early 2010s. But Philip Scott, looking back on Nathan Maurer, they're racing for 6th position. That number 99 was able to get by the 971, but hasn't been able to pull away. And 2 Simbox trucks are filling up that number 99's mirror right there. Now that number 5 of Ben Adams looks like he is solidifying his position ahead of Travis White and Evan Burke right here, battling for 11th position. That last time by, Ben did in fact get by Travis White in that 23 truck. And Peter, we're down already on lap 42 to only 20 trucks on the lead lap, with the vast majority of those off the lead lap, either with substantial damage or are already out of this race.
Yeah, trucks that are not circling out there on the racetrack right now include Tristan Maher, Jeff Price, Monty Glover Jr., Vincent Valvano, and Todd Kirkwood. All of those trucks still sitting on pit road here tonight. Garrett Gleason is the last truck on the lead lap, as you see Nathan Maurer ducked to the inside of Philip Scott. Scott now under fire from the number 9 of Lorello, who continues his march towards the front. This is the battle right now for the 7th position between Lorello and the number 9 of Scott, and sure enough, Lorello will take that 7th position, move the number 99 back to 8th, but Scott says, no, hold up, wait a minute, I want to get that spot back, but not quite able to get the power down in the number 99 truck, so move Lorello one spot closer towards the front of the field. Plenty of time for James Lorello to take the lead here tonight as we continue to watch this battle from 6th position on back. Jamar Dumas there having a little look at the back of this 5-truck train as well on Doug Neal, but at least for now, they will remain single file out there on the racetrack. This is the best battle for position, at least at the moment, although Andrew Hillman and Chris Darling, that gap has kind of stayed about where it has been the last couple of laps. There you can see right there. And that time by, Himmelman pulling away just a little bit on Darling, almost up to about 0.4 of a second. So that is a battle that we'll keep our eyes on. How about the battle up at the front of the field? Well, that battle has pretty much stabilized as well. You can see Izenga was able to pull out about a half second. Now, last time by, Himmelman just a smidgen faster. We'll see how that gap kind of cycles amongst those drivers. Chris Darling pulling away from Mitchell Adams. Mitchell Adams not quite pulling away from the 6 of Matt Cherry, who's very much stabilized himself in 5th over Nathan Maurer. And of course, Maurer and Lorello back behind them. As you see Matt Vanderkoy, we saw a quick look of Matt Vanderkoy head down onto pit road in the number 60 machine. He is 22nd, Drew. I believe 4 laps down as of right now.
Yes, 4 laps down is that number 60 truck. A ton of damage, in fact, that he has. But that number 8 truck not getting through lap traffic quite as well as the 07, and I think that's going to give Ben Izinga a little bit, about 2.5 tenths advantage right there. It really penalizes you, I think, at Richmond to catch these guys on entry or late exit. You really want to get them through the center, or on the straightaway is obviously ideal, but if you really have to pinch in that entry, it really affects how much speed you can carry to the apex and center off, because it just messes up your marks. You're not going the same speed. It can really affect your rhythm there, and so that really kind of pulled our front 3 apart, and in fact kind of let guys behind Chris Darling catch up to him a little bit. There is the number 6, number 49 of Mitchell Adams. Those guys are doing pretty well. Matt Cherry having a good run, started 9th in 5th position. We're riding on board with that 28 of Jamar Dumas. He is in 9th position, battling Ben Adams. Philip Scott, Peter, he has fallen like a rock after getting up to 6th position. He is now outside of our top 10.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He is now well back in his machine, as you see Matt Vanderkoy on pit road right now, as well as Jeff Price, who was able to, I believe, return to the racetrack at least briefly. Matt Vanderkoy now peeling back out there onto the racetrack himself. So we will wait and see whether or not Vanderkoy can make up any positions with any attrition here tonight. But we're watching Nathan Maurer, James Orello battling for position, and Nathan Maurer has actually been closing in just a little bit on Matt Cherry in front of him. You can see the time gap here over the last 10 laps here or so, and you can see it has been shrinking. It was up about a second 10 laps ago, now just down to about 4/10 of a second here, Drew. So Maurer closing in, but the number 9 of Lorello is keeping right with him.
Certainly is the case, as that 971 is hanging on right there. But Lorello just, he's done a really good job, about as well as I think anyone could have expected given where he started. That number 11 is running very defensive, though, on corner entry, Peter. He's running really, really low. And I got to imagine that's not doing that right front any good whatsoever, as he's really started to lose touch with the number 8 in front of him. And the rest of the field, it feels like, has caught back up to him. We almost have a truly train going at this point.
Yeah, you got Darling, Adams, and then Cherry and Nathan Maurer and James Orello kind of all together right now. There's really 5 trucks here from 3rd position all the way back to Lorello, who is in the 7th spot right now, all kind of leading themselves into this little gaggle here, working their way through turn number 1 and 2. You see Lorello to the inside of Matt Cherry, move Maurer up into the top 5 now, but Cherry in the number 6 here starting to slide back, and he'll fall into the clutches of Doug Neal here in a moment if he's not too careful. Ben Izenga, the 07 machine, the Canadian driver, who is leading the race up to a 1.6 second advantage over Andrew Himmelman. Christopher Darling is about almost 3 seconds now behind the 2nd place of Andrew Himmelman. So your front 2 here really starting to stretch things out here at Richmond, as you see Chris Darling here looking to the inside of Nick Bradley in the number 40, who has fallen 1 lap down. And look at Nathan Maurer using that number 40 there, Drew, as a little bit of a pick. He is now up to 4th. Maurer flying here around Richmond.
Yeah, it looked like the 49 was just being a little cautious on corner entry around that lap truck, and Maurer just took advantage and full sent that 971 truck into turn 1, and that move paid off. And folks, I referenced a Truly train. I think you're very familiar with this concept, Peter. Could you describe for the viewers what a quote-unquote Truly train is?
Yeah, so Jarno Trulli, yeah, that's his name, Jarno Trulli. It truly is his name. was a Formula One driver who was extremely difficult to pass and always ended up with a line of cars back behind him. And so it became known as the Trilly Tree. And that is a term. I think it is a coined term. You probably tell a lot of people in the world what a Trilly train is, who at least people who watch racing, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. So that's what we had a little bit of here, but here comes Nathan Maurer trying to get himself up to the 3rd spot. He is going to dive to the inside here of Chris Darling in the Taz Racing Customs Ford F-150, and looks like Maurer able to possibly clear the number 11 truck as they head off into turn number 3. Meanwhile, Mitchell Adams and James Lorello, they're going side by side. Lorello trying to use the high line to get around Mitchell Adams, and he will. So move Lorello into the top 5 here on lap number 63. And remember, folks, he's going for about $50 here tonight. Doing the Buttkicker Challenge, picked up your Craig Setup Shop Bowl Award at the beginning of the night, and the number 9 Stay Tuned Sports podcast machine. Now trying to go for 4th around the outside of Chris Darling, and it sure looks like Lorello has found a little groove up there, and he is definitely finding some pace up there, Drew.
Yeah, so there is a little bit more banking, I believe, Peter. It at least feels like it in the truck, that there's a little bit more banking basically above that first white hashed mark line right there. If you're about a lane up, there's a little bit more banking and you can lean on it. But I just noticed the dramatic difference between the momentum that 9 could carry on that high lane versus the 11 when he was being passed by Nathan Maurer. I thought Chris Darling was going to knock the wall down out of turn 4. It looked like he was really struggling to get that car to turn on corner exit versus that 9 is able to really rotate that thing center off right there and carry some good speed. Just can't quite get around the 11. But Peter, you really don't want to stay up there too long if you're that number 9. That is not the optimal line. And he would really like to clear that 11 as soon as he can and kind of get back on the normal lane, because when you're not running the normal kind of preferred line in iRacing, it can really have a negative effect on your tire wear.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Looks like Lorello may be finally able to clear Darling off into turn number 1, sure enough. And so Lorello will grab the 4th spot. Darling back to 5th. Mitchell Adams hot on his bumper. He is 6th. Doug Neal is in 7th. Matt Cherry is in 8th. So now we have a group of cars from 5th all the way back to the 8th spot. In fact, there's also another driver sneaking into this picture as well, and that is the number 5 machine of Ben Adams, as you see the field going around the lap car of Garrett Gleason. So Drew, I've been really impressed with the way Ben Adams has been kind of quietly keeping control of his tires, and he's been starting to creep up towards these trucks in front of him. And remember, he was down around the 13th or 14th spot when we went back green, and he dives to the inside of Matt Cherry, almost contact between the 5 and the number 6, but Adams going to squeak on by.
3 wide is not something you see very often at Richmond, at least without a crash at the end of it. But an aggressive, but worthwhile move based on the end result for that number 5 of Ben Adams as he gains a spot. And yeah, you're right. As far as pace is concerned, one of the better runs thus far. I mean, we're only on lap 70 of 266, so a long way to go. Just under 200 laps to go here at Richmond tonight. But a really good run thus far. Good display of pace by that number 5. But and Nathan Maurer as well, another guy that we should talk a little bit more about. He is doing a fantastic job in that 971 truck, getting by Chris Darling, Mitchell Adams, and leaving 2 guys that I think I was looking at going into this race, just leaving those guys in the dust and running a really solid 3rd position. Drew Himmelman doing a really good job in 2nd position, not quite able to match the pace of our leader right now. He had closed, contact going into turn 1 between Doug Neal and Mitchell Adams, and that could have been much worse for those 2 drivers. And it really looks like the 49 and the 11 are struggling with tires here, Peter.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. As you see Ben Adams now going around Mitchell Adams. So move Ben up to the 7th spot. He's going to look to the inside of Doug Neal here as well. Neal, of course, in that bright yellow number 77 Simbach Chevy Silverado. Simbach's is the company that he owns. Make sure you check them out on Facebook, www.facebook.com/SimboxPC. But that number 77 right now is in 6th, started in 8th here tonight, and has been solidly kind of holding station for quite some time now. There is Chris Darling in 5th. He's slid back quite a ways now from Lorello. Lorello is not all too far behind Nathan Maurer in the 971. There is Nathan, but then you can see quite a gap to the trucks in front of him. Andrew Himmelman coming down the backstretch. Ben Izenga going off into turn number 1. We'll see if we can bring up the track map down there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That is all the drivers, Drew, based off of the position they are currently at on the racetrack. So if you see number 1, that is Ben Izenga, the 07 machine. Number 2 is our second place driver of Andrew Himmelman, and it's about half a straightaway right now, at least halfway down the backstretch, and it's a full straightaway between Ben Izenga and your third place 971 of Nathan Maurer. Then you have 3rd and 4th together, and then you have that gaggle from 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th all together, as Doug Neal there in the 77 finally passed by Ben Adams, who creeps his way back up towards the top 5. Next truck in front of him is Chris Darling. But you kind of see that behind them, it's kind of spread out. 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. And then it is quite a ways back to the 16th place driver, which is Kyle Lewis. Evan Bushbosher is, I believe, the last truck on the lead lap right now as they run. And I actually take that back. Bushbosher has gone a lap down, as has Kyle Lewis. So Steven Doziak Jr., the 15th place driver right now, is the last truck on the lead lap. We'll bring up that track map graphic here a couple times here tonight as we close in on the halfway mark here tonight at Richmond International Raceway. Big shout out to tonight's race sponsor, Beer Street Journal. There is a link in the description to Beer Street Journal's website, and if you're like me, you like some craft beer, well, Beer Street Journal is the place to check out. And their blog of craft beer is really, really cool to go check out. And I check it out every once in a while myself and see what's going on, see what they have to say. As, Ben Izenga, your race leader, having some connection issues, but Drew, he's back, at least for now.
Yeah, that's the only problem he's had tonight, has been that little connection difficulty just for a split second. But it's always worrisome when you're that truck and you're like, what just happened? Was that me? Was that the server? iRacing has, not usually, but has had that problem on the occasion. But Izenga doing a fantastic job and being the guy that's been able to balance pace and preserving his tires, as Drew Himmelman not able to stay with him. I mean, I would think that the only truck that's really anywhere close to him pace-wise would be that 9 truck, but if there's not another caution, he's just 7.5 seconds behind. But this number 11 truck is probably the guy I am the most surprised with, running now in 8th position, all the way up to 4th or 3rd, actually, on that last restart, and has just struggled after about the first 20, 30 laps of the run. His tires just fell off a cliff. Maybe he's going through some graining or something there, Peter, to use another F1 term. But now the number 43 truck of Evan Burke battling Steven Doziak or not Steven Doziak, my apologies, the number 99 of Philip Scott, who again was, I believe, up to 6th position right after that last restart, but is now just really struggling with that number 99 truck.
Yeah, Burke just made the pass on Philip Scott just a couple of laps ago in that number 43 truck to get himself up to 13th. Now Philip Scott coming under fire from the number 55 of Steven Doziak, who's not all too far behind him. There is Doze, but the problem that these drivers are really facing is that right there is your race leader. That is Ben Izenga, and under this green flag run that we have had, Izenga now is about to put the 15th, 14th, and 13th place trucks 1 lap down. They're just about half a straightaway in front of them. Izenga here tonight just absolute tearing up the field. I'm just looking, Drew, kind of at my scoring pylon at average lap times, and consistently Izenga is one of the fastest drivers out there on the racetrack. So the 07 has got things figured out here tonight. Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 machine right there, working his way through turn number 3 and 4. Nathan Maurer now into turn number 3 and 4 himself. The gap between Himmelman and Nathan Maurer is just closing up just a little bit, not a significant amount. It's almost down to 3 seconds, but still a pretty healthy margin between Himmelman and Maurer. But as you can see, as Philip Scott and Steven Doziak are now battling for position, Doze is going to drop to the inside, let your race leader on by. That is very gentlemanly racing out of Doziak. You don't exactly always see that out of Steven. He's in the chat. I know he'll get a kick out of that. But now Philip Scott's going to go a lap down. So Drew, we're down to just 13 trucks now on the lead lap here at Richmond.
Yeah, and we're talking about how this run's developing. These guys went green on lap 32. We're now on lap 88. And with these reduced fuel tanks here, Peter, once again running 70% tonight, what do you think this fuel window will be? Because we're 50, closing in on 60 laps into this run.
I don't think it's going to be that much longer before we see these drivers come down pit road. I don't think they can make it to lap their 80th consecutive lap. You can see there, that's the stint length. Ben Izinga's been out there for 67 consecutive laps in the 07. Same thing with Himmelman, Maurer, Lorello. Adams, Ben Adams in the number 5, he came down pit road under the last caution, so he can actually go a little bit further than Izinga, Himmelman, Maurer, and Lorello in front of him. Big shout out to Ben Adams, who's worked his way now up into the top 5 in the Sim Shots Buttkicker number 5. There you see the number 16, Brian Bradley, well off the pace after being involved in an early accident. But great job here by Ben Adams. He isn't exactly closing in on James Lorello, but he's really not losing any ground to James Lorello either. In fact, I take that back. Adams is closing in. Was 2.4 seconds back 5 laps ago, now down to just a second. Not sure if that's due to lap traffic or something, but Adams is really starting to put the pressure on the number 9 machine here as we presumably are closing in. Well, I just had to open my mouth. We're not closing in on green flag pit stops because caution flag has come out here, Drew.
Yeah, I was wondering. I'm like, Peter, the thing turned yellow, and now it's just figuring out what exactly happened. I love to go to the pace truck or pace car rather, and then right when those lights turn on, kind of click my way through the track, and here we go. I believe the number 2 truck right there of Justin White. What happens here? Racing side by side with Chris Darling.
Well,
And
I thought that might have been it, but that definitely wasn't it, Drew. So we might have to do some sleuthing here. Let's do some sleuthing here, everyone. We're all doing sleuthing all at the same time. All of us here on 3Y TV, we're all getting our microscope out, trying to figure out. We're going through the entire field. I'm not seeing anyone sideways. I'm not seeing anything going on. I don't think I missed it by that much. We had these are a couple of drivers further back in the pack. That's Brian Bradley on pit road. We saw him on pit road a couple times. You know, we might just have to let's roll back the tape a little bit. Here we go from the helicopter cam, and I don't.
Peter, is this the stage? The stage
that is it. That is it. My goodness. It is the stage break. It was supposed to come out on lap number 90. I think it might have been a lap or two after that before it actually came out, but it was supposed to come out on lap number 90. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it actually did come out on lap number 90, and we've spent 4 laps trying to figure out what's going on. But yep, sure enough, you're right. This is the stage break. We forget about that fact. They do run stage breaks here in this series, and yeah. Anyway, let's go back live because we'll see what's going on out there on the racetrack. There's the number 9 machine of James Varela. He's running in the 3rd spot. Ben Izenga, Andrew Himmelman. They all came down pit road on lap number 92. So maybe they did go caution on lap number 90. And anyway, whatever. It's difficult up here in the booth, guys. Give us some slack. Stay Tuned Sports saying, hey, guys, don't forget. They're doing a movie giveaway here on lap number 226. Be active in the chat. The most active will be the winner. So, guys, get active in the chat. Tristan Maher saying stage caution, it's the stage. William Kerwin saying it's the stage. Man, y'all are smarter than us. Stay tuned Sports saying, what's the beer for the weekend this weekend, Peter? I'll tell you what, there is a very nice beer here in the DFW area. It's I think it's local. And I have been absolutely loving it. It is a coffee oatmeal imperial stout named Wake and Bake. And it's a coffee oatmeal imperial stout. The local not brewery, but the local pub here in town has it. And it is unbelievable. Absolutely love it. That's my beer right now of choice. So pretty cool to have. And Philly area has one called Dallas Sucks. I'm sure I could go into Dallas and I could find one that says Eagles suck, or I know here in Texas, Drew, and I know I've drunk this one before, but we have one in Burnt Orange that says Oklahoma Sucks. That's the Oklahoma Sucks beer.
I mean, Peter, it's 8:58. We're going green flag, and OU still sucks. Ben Izinga takes him to the green flag here. James Dorello, a welcome stage break for that number 9 truck, as that allows him to erase about 7.5 seconds between he and Izinga. The question is will the 8 be able to hang on? A really good run by Drew Himmelman in that number 8, that last run by. With number 77 and 6 trucks are battling side by side. That is for, I believe, 6th position, as Matt Cherry is trying to defend from Doug Neal. And again, we need to make sure we mention Ben Adams. Top 5 right now, a great run by that number 5 truck. Almost reminds me of the old Casey Kane, great clips, asymmetrical scheme with the triangles and stuff that was run once upon a time. Cool looking truck right there. And one of the things that I really noted to myself there, Peter, was the fact that the number 49, that last run, had the freshest tires amongst the leaders and still suffered with tire wear relative. Now, it's only by a couple laps, but I think that is pretty worrying if you're that number 49 truck. But back out front, we've seen the 8 on these first few laps after these restarts be able to apply a little bit of pressure to Izinga. But here we go. That number 99, our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner of Philip Scott. He gets back on the lead lap in 14th position, and that's a pretty good position to be in there, Peter. It's to be that, as we have a wreck, and I believe that is the, not 94, but the 22 of Evan Bushbasher. That is probably the coolest last name I've ever said out loud. He loops it, and unfortunately not a very cool night that he's having tonight, as we will queue up the replay and see exactly what happened.
Yeah, so let's see what happened exactly to Bushbasher here in his Chevy Silverado, coming out of turn number 2, lights up the rear tires, gets a little bit sideways, tries to get on the brakes, but unfortunately makes some pretty heavy contact there with the inside wall. We'll get another look at that here from the blimp cam. There's the number 22 racing off into turn number 2 right there. Rear end brakes loose. Just tries to get on the brakes to turn it back the other way. Unfortunately, unable to do so. And that will bring out the caution flag here at Richmond International Raceway. And he will get himself back out there. Looks like he is currently 1 lap down as they run. In fact, I believe that is now 2 laps down for him. Good news is we are looking at the driver that should be picking up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award under this caution. That is Stephen Doziak Jr. You see him getting waved by the iRacing key out eye right there. And now the 55 of Doziak will be the 15th truck on the lead lap. Big shout out to Brookstone Animal Hospital for being our Lucky Dog Award sponsor all season long. And if you are in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, make sure you check out Brookstone Animal Hospital for all of your animal hospital needs. That's the way it goes here in the National Sim Racing Association. Stay tuned, Sports Podcast Truck Series. Let's check out the chat. Well, nothing much has been going on in the chat since we last were under yellow. So, but big shout out to Beer Street Journal here tonight, folks. Like I said, link is in the chat. Really, really cool website that they have going out there. And we'll see if we can see what's going on, well, why don't we highlight things that are going on in the Beer Street Journal website here, just so you guys can get a little bit of a taste of what they have to offer here under the caution flag. While not a whole lot's going on the racetrack, don't miss this. Magnetic South Brewery, Anderson, South Carolina, gains third brewery with Magnetic South. Highland Brewing returns to downtown Asheville with second tap room. Obviously, if you are around the Asheville, North Carolina area, this is going to be pretty helpful for you as well. Ecliptic Brewing to open second brewery this summer. We got my big one, Founders. Founders is a brewery up in the north portion of the United States, and they have a cinnamon vanilla cocoa breakfast stout coming out later this season. Their Kentucky breakfast stout that is bourbon barrel aged, and now I'm sounding like an advert for Founders Brewery, but their bourbon barrel aged series breakfast stouts are just to die for if you're at least a beer drinker like I am. It's going to be a imperial stout with coffee, cinnamon, vanilla extract, and cocoa nibs aged in oak bourbon barrels. And that is coming out later this year in November, coming in at a hefty 12% ABV. William Kerwin asking, when are we going to fly, Peter? William just got the new Microsoft Flight Simulator a week or two ago. And William, I picked up today the PMDG Simulations DC6. Just came out today. PMDG Simulations first add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator literally came out today. I picked that up, so I'm going to be flying the DC6 all weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. So many buttons, so many knobs, so much math and charts and a whole bunch of stuff goes into flying DC6. It's basically like flying a C-130 without a flight engineer and a co-pilot. It's near on impossible, but I'm going to try and do it anyway. You can join me on Twitch tomorrow night, Peter S22IR. I should be on Twitch at some point here tomorrow. But Drew, pace car's headed down pit road, and we're going back racing.
Yeah, a great restart by Izenga. And I was going to say, Peter, with all your stout talk, you're sounding like a true Englishman. As those are a little bit too much beer for me, but not too much restart. Oh, a little too much restart for the field, though, as we are back under caution. And what the heck happened here? It's kind of hard to tell. The field's rolling again. Now looking at, I believe this is the 23 truck. Yes, it is. And that is Travis White going into turn one. Ooh, just loses the rear. That can happen here at Richmond. And wow, I can't believe everyone avoided him. A great job by the field right there. But now we'll stack him back up again. And I guess, Peter, now I'm going to talk about my favorite beer for a second. You know what? We'll wait. We'll finish the replays for you folks. But looks like maybe just a little too much rear brake there for that number 23, and then that back end stepped out, and the 18 got so close right there, just narrowly avoiding the rear bumper of that number 23 truck. But I don't know if our viewers are IPA guys, like piney beers, like citrusy beers, lagers, whatever. I'm definitely an IPA guy, a product of my few years that I spent in Southern California. And I found a really, really delicious kind of citrusy light IPA from Santa Fe Brewing. Found it in my recent trip to northern New Mexico. It's fantastic. Our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner, the number 18 of Kyle Lewis. And I know Kyle asked if his scheme looks great. Looks great to me. Looks great receiving our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. The number's a little chromy, but who cares about that? But there we go, Peter. Another caution, and cautions breed cautions, as the saying goes on, and that's kind of been the case recently.
Yeah, cautions can't breed cautions, especially here at Richmond International Raceway. We've seen that how many times over the years, Drew, that this little 3/4 mile racetrack, I mean, even going back to the NASCAR Racing 2003 season days, kind of hard to get away from the accidents here around this racetrack. And of course, we will have to go on board with one of these drivers here in a little bit. We haven't really done a lap around the racetrack on board, so we can talk you guys through the way this racetrack races. Maybe we'll do that here while we're under caution and we don't have kind of anything going on. But this racetrack, usually you have a lot of grip right down there on the left-hand side of your screen. Why we're at that yellow line is, especially through turn number 3 and 4, I've always found here in iRacing that you want to be really, really low to that yellow line on exit of turn number 4, so you can really power down the front stretch. Now, as you can see, the front stretch is not straight by any means. It isn't a front straight, it's a front stretch, because you're turning all the way down into turn number 1, and you even get on the brakes, Drew, turning the wheel, and you really have to drag the brake, just kind of hold the brake, slowly let off, turn the wheel, keep turning the wheel a little bit more before you start to get into the entry. You have to lose a lot of speed before you get to turn number 1, but at the same time, you're continuing to lose speed all the way to about, I don't know, I'd say about 2/3 of the way through turn number 1 before you finally let off the gas and allow the car to rotate through the center of turns 1 and 2. And then again, you hit that power down on the backstretch. And you and I know, Drew, just like what happened to Evan Bushbasher a couple of laps ago, getting the power down coming out of turn number 2 is really tricky as the racetrack falls away from you.
Absolutely, and you're going to go right against that outside wall out of turn 2. It can really tighten up there for you. And going into turn 1 can be really challenging because there's just not a lot of banking when you're on the brakes the most. As you see, right here, folks, where this camera is, your maximum brake force right about here. And there's just not a lot of banking. And so what you want to do is get that thing to really rotate on entry, usually by quite a bit of rear brake bias. But then what can happen is what happened to that number 23 truck on corner entry. You get just a little bit too much rear brake, and then all of a sudden, once that back end starts to rotate on corner entry, there's not necessarily a lot that you can do. We will see what that number 07 can do. Ben Izinga on this restart, another great restart from Izinga, as he has just nailed these things all night long. Already 0.3 of a second on Jude Himmelman, but here comes that number 9 of James Dorello. He shoots that thing into turn 1. Will he make that stick on the bottom lane? We've seen on these restarts that high lane has been able to work and hold off, if not past that bottom lane. We will see what James Dorello can do. It looks like the 8's going to get a decent run off. He is a decent run, but certainly not what I was kind of expecting, as Lorello keeping it on the bottom there. And Peter, I think that if he's able to hold this, I think he'll be able to wear that 8 down. And as these tires come up to temps, that bottom lane will become more and more preferred.
Yeah, I don't know. With Lorello was able to make that pass, remember, on the high side later in the run on, like, Chris Darling. So I'm kind of wondering if Lorello, there's contact between the 8 and the number 9. That's one way to make sure you get past the truck. Gives a little bit of hip check, and problems. Ben Adams, the number 5 machine. Did he make contact with the inside wall? We stay green flag. Let's see if we can go see what happened to the number 5 here of Adams. But Adams here appears to be off the pace as I talk. Coming out of turn number 2, same thing that we saw out of Evan Bushbasher a little while ago. Gets on the power a little bit too much there, Drew, and heavy into the inside wall. And that's a tough break for a driver who's been having one heck of a night up till now.
Yeah, we sung his praises earlier on in this race, and sometimes, you get the commentator's curse because that number 5 hit the wall a ton. And, just kind of back up front here, Peter, the 8 has kind of caught the number 9 again. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a little bit of bumper games right here, because that 9 used his elbows going into turn 1 and made sure that number 8 was not going to be on his outside right there. So it'll be interesting to see if that 8 gets close. What will happen between these two drivers? Typically, you race guys how they race you, and Lorello made a very assertive move. And if I were a number 8 truck, I know I would be kind of being like, all right, bud, okay. If we want to race that way, we'll race that way. But we'll see. Maybe Drew Himmelman is a better man than I. But the number 6 in Matt Cherry also with another solid restart right here as he's running up in 4th position. I think that's about as high as that 6 has run all night here.
Yeah, I'm sure that James Dorello's probably trying to do what Denny Hamlin once upon a time said, what was it, short track racing? That short track racing? Something to that regards. But, Andrew Himmelman all over the back bumper now of the Silent Syndicate machine. Now, it is an S2R 1-2 right now with Izinga leading the number 9 of Lorello. Then you have the Sim Shots number 8 machine there in third. And Matt Cherry, he is not backing down here tonight in the number 6 Amsoil Ford F-150. Back behind them, it is a gap back to Nathan Maurer, who leads his teammate Doug Neal. Mitchell Adams in that gaggle as well. Then Evan Burke, Chris Darling, and Jamar Dumas rounding out your top 10. We're back up to 16 trucks on the lead lap, with Kyle Lewis recently picking up that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, as you see your race leader go past Evan Bushbosher in the number 22. And it appears that number 22 is quite drastically hurt here, Drew. Last time by, he was about 3 seconds off the pace of your front view, and I'm wondering if they will say that is outside of the 107% time, and whether or not he will be asked to pull that number 22 truck down onto pit road, because you can see how much Bushbosher is off the pace here. Last time by, a 26.15 second lap time. You compare that to Ben Izenga, James Arello. They're in the 22.6 bracket. So yeah, almost 4 seconds slower Bushbosher was the last time. That 22 truck is really tore up after that contact with the inside wall.
Yeah, it's kind of odd to me. I mean, it's that indecisiveness is really worrying for those trucks on the lead lap. You really want him to pick a spot and not do that going into the corner. That if I were that 23, I would not be very happy with that. Interesting that he's staying out on track, quite frankly, Peter. His first start, he's obviously not in the points chase, so interesting that the number 22 is staying out. Maybe he's coming down pit road now. I believe he is. And yeah, when you're that slow, you're just in the way. You're not having fun. It's against, I think, racers' nature to retire a truck or a vehicle that is still running. But sometimes that's kind of the smart thing to do, even if that's not something you necessarily want to do. But this battle for second is certainly not going away. I expected Lorello to start pulling away from that number 8 truck when he got by, but that has not been the case. Maybe the 8 has learned a little something from James Lorello. As remember, folks, James Lorello, our pole sitter statistically, but starting position-wise, he opted for that Buttkicker challenge, $50 on the line if he went to the back of the field as he did and is able to close this out and win this race. James Lorello with a hefty little prize there potentially at the end of this race. But first, he's got to get away from Drew Himmelman and run down that number 07, and that's just not happening. Is Drew Himmelman right on that back bumper?
Yep, Drew Himmelman all over the back bumper of the number 9 machine, looking up and down the scoring pylon. Nathan Maurer is still holding about a quarter of a second on his teammate. There they are at the back of the screen. Then you see Jamar Dumas running right behind Evan Burke. Philip Scott in that battle for position as well. So some good battles happening out there on the racetrack. Just no side-by-side action happening as of right now, at least, as we close in on the halfway mark here tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us in the chat here tonight. Stay tuned Sports will be doing a giveaway here tonight with about 50 laps to go. They'll be giving away a movie in the chat. Pretty darn cool, so make sure you stay active. JT Poole saying that Nashville race was fun. I think JT might have actually been at the race here tonight, or at the actual NASCAR race, I think, or maybe I heard that last night, something of the sort. Tana, don't make me say number 8's name to get him away from James. Yeah, remember, Stay Tuned Sports is the sponsor of that number 9 machine that we're watching right there. But he has kind of pulled away just a little bit there, Drew, as Andrew Himmelman now under fire from Matt Cherry.
Yeah, that number 9 had a ton of long run pace, and not that the 8 of Himmelman didn't, but I don't think it was quite there with the number 9, but it definitely seems like Lorello is not great on the short run, just opportunistic. As really Matt Cherry is applying more pressure to Himmelman than Himmelman is to Lorello at this point. But it'll be interesting to see. Another one of those guys that struggled with long run pace was Matt Cherry. And just kind of going through the field, Nathan Maurer, a solid top 5. It's about where he has been all night with his teammate Doug Neal and that number 77 behind him. Mitchell Adams, I mean, uncharacteristically 7th for Mitchell Adams right here, which is about as bad of a night as he's going to have if he doesn't have anything major happen. But the 49 just not finding the pace of our front runners all night long. But, I mean, heck, a top 10 is nothing to sneeze at right there is Jamar Dumas in that number 99 of Philip Scott are racing right there, and it looks like Philip Scott is going to be ahead of Jamar Dumas. That time by with that 43 of Evan Burke in front of those two drivers. Dumas got really deep into turn one. I thought he was potentially going to tag the back of that number 99 truck. And of course, this is, statistically, I guess realistically, is there a big difference between 10th and 11th? No, but you always want that top 10 next to your name in the driver standing, so always something to battle for there. But the number 8 up front now lost about 0.9 of a second to that number 9 truck. The 8 certainly not keeping up as well as he did that previous run, and a whole lot of pressure being applied by Matt Cherry right now.
Yeah, definitely Matt Cherry and the number 6 truck looking awfully good right now. Meanwhile, this is the battle between Evan Burke and Justin White. This is the battle for 11th. They have Jamar Dumas right in front of them. Travis White now in the 23, also squeaking into the picture in the number 23 truck. But at least for now, Justin White will get around Evan Burke. So Burke has lost a couple spots here over the last couple of laps at Richmond, and now he's going to fall into the clutches of that number 23 sim box truck that you see right there on your screen right there. Want to give a huge shout out to some of the other series sponsors as Steven Doziak goes around the number 60 Matt Vanderkoy. First one, Taz Racing Customs, sponsoring the biggest mover of the race award here tonight. MaxGrafix.co as well. Of course, Beer Street Journal is the sponsor of the race here tonight. In their website is, of course, beerstreetjournal.com. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, Buttkicker, https, thebuttkicker.com. Craig set up shop for sponsoring the Pole Award. Brookstone Animal Hospital, Sim Shots, and everyone else that makes the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series a thing, as we see the number 55 is Steven Doziak pacing around the racetrack. But seems like this battle for third right now between Himmelman and Cherry not backing down just yet.
Certainly not, as that number 6 is being pretty persistent there on the back of the bumper of that number 8 truck, as James Zarello continues to extend his position over that third place truck and is staying pretty even with Ben Izinga for the last 10 laps or so. That 9 chrome black and green truck whizzing by right there, folks, and Nathan Maurer right there. Not a whole lot of change right here, basically, since the last time we covered these top runners. But what a job Ben Izinga has done tonight thus far. Hopefully this is not a commentator's curse, but that 07 has just had the measure of the field thus far on restarts, on basically everything that you could have thrown to that number 07 of Izinga. He has been able to rise to that challenge, and even James Zarello, once he was the guy I was looking at that could potentially challenge Izinga, considering his starting position and how quickly, quite frankly, he made his way through the pack. Because remember, Peter, he started 27th, and it's, just past halfway, he was able to get to second position, essentially. So a great drive by that number 9, and I thought he was going to have some pace to challenge that 07, but certainly has not been the case. Is what happened off at turn 2 with Evan Burke right there.
Yeah, Evan Burke just caught the wall. Let's see if we can go back and get this one here on the 3-wide TV replay and see exactly what happened to the number 43 machine on board with the Verizon 5G Chevy Silverado coming out of turn number 2. That's the wall! And did a great job there of saving the number 43 truck, but unfortunately has lost a couple of positions over the last 10 to 15 laps or so, and he will now be down in 14th here tonight. As Steven Doziak now up to 13th. Kyle Lewis is the last place truck on the lead lap. We can report that Ben Adams in the number 5 truck, Drew, after his great start to the race here tonight, that number 5 truck is now being scored 1 lap down and appears to be a little bit off the pace with the damage that number 5 truck has now received. You see him right there getting passed by Andrew Himmelman and Matt Cherry. And that battle for the 3rd spot between Himmelman and Cherry, well, look who's also sneaked back into the picture. That is Nathan Maurer and Doug Neal. And Drew, we were very impressed with the long run pace out of Nathan Maurer under that long green flag run that we had there before the stage caution. So Nathan here doing, again, a stellar job on the longer green flag run.
Absolutely. And another guy that kind of stands out is that chartreuse, to use the technical term, 77 truck. His teammate behind him, Doug Neal, a guy that we always look out for at restrictor plate tracks, but I think a guy who has done a really, really good job of improving his pace at our more challenging tracks like Richmond, and running ahead of guys like Mitchell Adams and Chris Darling, and going up there and battling for a top 5. We've seen a really steady improvement in pace for Doug over, it feels like, the last 2 seasons. And so it's really cool to see him getting up there and battling for the top 5, especially considering how much he does for the league with SimBox and the awesome button boxes that they make. Of course, last year's title sponsor, and still a significant presence within NSRA. So good to see Doug Neal and Nathan Maurer, both SimBox trucks, doing a fantastic job, running almost both in the top 5, as they are now really applying pressure to Matt Cherry, who is falling a little bit behind Drew Himmelman now, and now Cherry is kind of in danger of being passed by Nathan Maurer. And I think if Nathan opens that door and it compromises that 6, I think Doug Neal's going to be right there to pounce as well.
Yeah, let's ride on board here with Nathan Maurer as he heads off into turn number 1, looking at the back of the AMSOIL Ford F-150. Justin White in the number 2 machine also climbing his way through the field nice and neatly as they run out there on the racetrack. Maurer getting a strong run out of turn number 4 himself. You can see him just closing up on Matt Cherry, but Cherry dives it off into turn number 1 late on the brakes in the number 6 Ford F-150, but Maurer gets a strong run coming out of the corner. Matt Vanderkoy there might have just upset the exit for the number 6 of Cherry, and Cherry now going to slide into the clutches of the 77 of Doug Neal, but looks like Cherry's able to hold on at least for now, move Maurer back to 4th.
Yeah, a good job as Neal is going to send it into turn 1. He absolutely is, and turns 1 and 2 haven't been quite as friendly. Oh, Neal does not get a great run off. It looked like Mitchell Adams was going to look for the 3 wide move right there. The question is, can Doug get it to rotate? Now he clipped the apron just a little bit through 3 and 4 and just struggled to get that thing to hook up off the corner. And now Mitchell Adams going to try to make a move to the high lane of Doug Neal, and this could be the opposite of what that 77 wanted.
Yeah, Doug Neal was sending it on the inside. Now Mitchell Adams is sending it on the outside in that number 49 MaxGrafix.co Chevy Silverado. And Drew, I'm just wondering how many of these drivers are learning from that long green flag run that we had earlier in the race. Remember, Mitchell Adams was one of those drivers who really struggled long in that run, and now he's starting to make some passes here late in this run as he gets to the inside here of the number 6 AMSOIL F-150, and Doug Neal there also going in deep into turn number 3. And now look at the number 11 machine as the number 6 of Cherry has problems, and now we're 3 wide. Darling on the inside, Neal in the middle, and the number 6 of Cherry all the way up on the top side, and we're still 3 wide. Can you believe this? The field catching up to the back of the number 40 there, who's off the pace, and it looks like Darling here gonna get a 2-for-1. Gets around the 6, gets around the 77, and Darling's now in the 5th position. And remember, Drew, just like what I just said about the 49 of Mitchell Adams, who really struggled late in that run, as James Arello's on pit road here, possibly starting our pit road sequence, green flag pit stops. I'm wondering if Darling saved his tires under this run, but it looks like the 77 of Doug Neal looks like he's coming down onto pit road. So we are definitely seeing scheduled green flag pit stops here with about 109 laps to go.
Yeah, I wonder if they just realize we're going to have to make one more stop either way, because I don't think they can make 100 laps. That seems to not be practical. Number 07, Ben Izinga, on your screen right now, already pitted, was actually probably the first guy on pit road. So I imagine they're going to try to split this basically, 55-ish laps right here for Izinga and just try to make use of these tires. Because that number 9 of Lorello was actually catching him a little bit that last run. The 8 truck of Drew Himmelman now, I believe, exiting pit road. That should have been. If he was that a penalty for the number 8 actually, Peter?
I don't believe so. Andrew Himmelman is this is only his 3rd pit stop of the night, and he will be down and away, and he will hold station versus Nathan Maurer back behind him, who also just came down pit road. I'm not seeing any pit road speeding penalties or anything like that as of right now. So I think all these drivers are safe. Himmelman out there in front of Nathan Maurer and Doug Neal. Mitchell Adams a little bit further back. Ben Adams in the number 5 is yet to pit. And just looking at the front of the field, Darling, Cherry, Scott, White, Doziak, and Kyle Lewis, your top 7 as they run right now, have yet to come down pit road.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. What I predict that Darling is trying to stretch this to 80 to go. Caution, flag, and this is huge, Peter, as far as implications to this race are concerned. What happened here? Did it involve the number 8 of Drew Himmelman? And looking. Oh, yes, Drew Himmelman lost it out of turn 4, and that will bring out the caution. And that is a huge penalty to himself, as that caution will trap him a lap down and really changes the entire feel of this race, as I believe Izinga just unlapped himself, which will then give James Lorello the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. But riding on board with the 8, it looks like he might have got the apron a little bit towards the exit, and then once that thing whipped around, he was trying to save it, but by the time he was able to rally that thing, wrestle it under control, it unfortunately brought out the caution, which is huge.
Yep, that is definitely huge. Now you can see the pit strategy is going to kind of swing in the opposite direction. Chris Darling coming down pit road in his Taz Racing Customs number 11 truck. He was the race leader, had yet to pit under the green flag there. Of course, we were in the middle of that pit cycle, and it's really going to work out here for the number 11 of Darling as he hits his pit box. You see that crew going to work, and he is now down and away and will easily win the race off pit road. Sure enough, James Dorello will be picking up that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how many trucks we have left on the lead lap. We do expect to see quite a few trucks take the wave around here in just a moment. Ben Adams was one of those trucks, I think, who had was yet to pit. He's now coming down pit road. I believe he is on the lead lap. I think, maybe. No, I don't think he is. I think he's one lap down, unfortunately, in the number 5 truck. But my oh my, lap 165 here tonight. Going to have just about 100 laps to go when we go back green here at Richmond. How's the chat doing? How's your night going, folks, back at home? Tell us about your week. You have a good week? Stay tuned, sports. What's going on the podcast this week? You have any big podcast plans that you want to spill the beans to all the people watching here tonight on 3Y TV about? William Kerwin saying, well, after last night, I hope not 0-7. I'm assuming there was a little bit of bad blood last night between William and the 0-7. But yeah, definitely an interesting night. Tana Himmel is saying, Drew and I are not happy campers, but we've already got tickets to the Nashville SRX race. And Drew, I'll tell you what, that SRX concept, similar to the old concept that my mind now, I can't even think of. IROC, there you go, when they used to race the Trans Ams. It's an interesting concept. I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first race. It's certainly in its infantile stages. I think as it develops, it will become better and better. I just like that there's names that I grew up watching, right? Bobby Labonte, Tony Stewart, and then you got a couple young guys as well. It was awesome. I can't remember the guy's name, but to watch the local short track guy go and grab the first victory there at the first race of SRX. But it's just a lot of fun. It's kind of more old school and just kind of great having some names that I actually recognize compared to kind of modern Cup stuff, which when your favorite drivers retire, just don't quite care as much. So cool seeing that stuff. Now, all these guys that we're seeing right now, these guys are taking the wave around. They did not pit. They're all trying to get back on the lead lap. But number one, Peter, they don't have a lot of time. And number two, they're on some pretty not so fresh tires relative to the guys they're going to be racing.
Yeah, you are 100% accurate in that regard. They're going to have to hope for a quick caution here. As you see, this group of cars is led by the number 43 machine of Evan Burke. Evan is currently being scored in the 17th position, but at least right now, Drew, I'm seeing from Ben Izenga back to Andrew Himmelman in 14th. Those will be your lead lap cars here as the pace car lights have been extinguished here. Now, there'll be 98 laps to go when the green flag does fly back in the air here at the 3/4 mile Richmond International Raceway. Let's see if there's been any discussions in the chat. Little insight, maybe very close to setting up a mailbag for calls from fans, opinions, questions, etc. And that's really cool. Stay tuned, sports. If you can get that going, that would be a great addition. And maybe that's something we should explore here on 3 Wide TV. See if we could have a fan list of questions prior to the race or something like that. Anyway, green flag is back in the air here, and Ben Izenga already out to a pretty significant lead. There's Chris Darling in second. Remember, Drew, Izenga has probably about 3 or 4 green flag laps on his tires relative to Chris Darling, who's now turning his first green flag lap on tires because Izenga had just been down pit road when that caution flag flew. And Justin White, the number 2 machine, going around. He's in the infield. That should not bring out the caution, however, but he is going to fall well back. And what has happened to Chris Darling in the number 11? That will bring out the caution.
Yeah, that's about worst case. I mean, not worst case because he's still running, but about as bad as it could have gone for that number 11. He just gets real loose on corner edge at the same time the 2 does as well. Philip Scott able to avoid it, but the 11 just can't quite get it facing the right way. And then when you stop on the racing surface on iRacing, boom, there you go. Caution on these oval tracks. I thought the 11 was going to be able to get it pointed back in the correct direction, but honestly, it kind of serves the 11 a lot better for that caution to come out. You see right there, that wiggle. He goes up the track. Once he hits that outside, a great job by Philip Scott to avoid that, but that 11 was probably going to go around as soon as that right rear hit the wall, and then it kind of pulled the right front into it, and then you kind of have all sorts of weird lateral momentum, and it's going to be really hard to keep that thing under control. So another caution there as we see once again from Chris Darling's perspective just what happened, but not a ton of damage for that number 11, just in a great position, and now he's given all that up with that contact. Now, I mean, simultaneously, the number 2 lost it as well, and this is what happens when you don't chase it. The 2 just kind of spun to the inside. Luckily, that's not real life, or else the splitter would be torn off of that number 2 truck, but we'll see if that resulted in any damage, having that big difference in height between the grass and those that kind of runoff area. But this was a huge reprieve for those guys who took that wave around there right before that last green flag, Peter.
Yeah, and I don't know what's happened to Chris Darling here. That number 11 truck appears to be on pit road right now and not moving. Immobilized is the number 11 machine. So it might be night done for driver of the number 11 machine. Got Taz Racing Customs on the hood. If you need a custom racing diecast, make sure you check out our friends over at Taz Racing Customs. But unfortunately, it might be day done for Chris Darling. And I know, Drew, he had some really high hopes entering tonight here at Richmond.
Yeah, I don't know if this is his favorite track, but I know it's certainly one that he expects himself to run very well at, if it's not his favorite. And yeah, I mean, I guess he's locked in, and he probably thinks his shot at winning's over, so kind of doesn't matter maybe from his perspective at this point, because he certainly had positioned himself as well strategically as was possible. Fresher tires than Izenga in second position. With the amount of time left, that was a really good spot, and so I'm sure it was really, really frustrating when that sequence of events happened, and then put him right at the back with the damaged truck. But now Philip Scott finds himself in second. Travis White, Kyle Lewis, Steven Doziak, all in the top 5 guys that we have not seen up there all night. But guys like Drew Himmelman, Mitchell Adams, Jim Zorello got the lucky dog that previous time, but this was huge for him as well. And Peter, do we know who got the Brookstone Animal Lucky Dog Award this time? Was it the 5 truck of Ben Adams? I believe it was, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you are right. Looking at the scoring pylon versus how it was a little while ago. So Ben Adams back on the lead lap. Big shout out to Brookstone Animal Hospital for our Lucky Dog race sponsor here tonight, giving away quite a few lucky dogs around this racetrack here tonight with all the caution flags that we have had. It will be 91 laps ago when the green flag falls back out, because you can see the iRacing pace car lights have indeed been extinguished once again. Stay Tuned Sports saying bad luck continues for Chris Darling here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Indeed, it does. It doesn't seem like Chris Darling's having all too much going his way, although he's about to not get a lot of sleep in the number 11 machine. I believe his wife is expecting a child here very, very soon. So, Chris, hopefully you can get some more sleep. Of course, dropping out of the race here tonight probably not helping with that, as you see the base car head down pit road, and the green flag is back in the air. And Ben Isenga, again, a huge jump over the 99 and the 18, Drew.
Yeah, he's just been the master of restarts all night. And I imagine that, quite frankly, the guys that are restarting in the top 5 behind Isenga just haven't had the pace all night to really get up there without the strategy working out the way that it has. So this is kind of, whoa, I thought the 18 was going to lose it right there as he got a little loose, and it's just a cluster of different paces with these trucks back here. But Isenga is really going to like what he sees in his rearview mirror as these guys fight their way through cars that, or trucks rather, maybe don't quite have the same pace as him, including this number 9 truck that we're looking at of James Dorello. He is looking right on the back bumper of that number 28, and hopefully he doesn't drive it in a little too deep. Peter, when you get right behind somebody's rear bumper like that, especially going into the corner, all it takes is for them to break a foot earlier than you, and you're going to knock him in the rear and probably send him around. So a pretty aggressive choice right there by Lorello. But I think the guy who's probably done the best is the guy that we're looking at right now is Matt Cherry, of getting through these guys. Positioned pretty well on that restart and is making it work as he passes Travis White for third position, or is trying to. Not a great exit for that number 6 truck. But we've seen a lot of short run pace from this 6 tonight, and I just don't think they're going to have a very long green flag run. I think we both highly doubt that they can make it from here. So it's going to be 2 fairly short green flag runs from here to the end, and I really like where Matt Cherry's positioned himself based on what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, I would tend to agree there. He is currently running in the 3rd position, but we're hearing that the number 18 machine of Kyle Lewis has had problems on the backstretch. That will indeed bring out a caution flag here on 3 Wide TV. Let's see if we can figure out what happened to the number 18 machine. Here he is right there on the center of your screen, working his way through turn number 1 and 2 here. And Drew, let's see if this is the same thing again. Just too much throttle on exit. And man, looks like Evan Burke might have got a piece of the 18 going around as well.
Yeah, and then once that thing is kind of past that certain yaw point, exiting 2, you know what's going to happen. The best thing to do is to just slam on the brakes and slow down that truck as much as possible. The 18, he just gets loose, and then he fights it, and then there you see he does the smart thing and tries to lock it down, but at that point, his momentum is just traveling significantly towards the inside wall, and it's going to be a hard hit. In real life, you would have the radiator busted out of it and oil everywhere, and it would be day done. Luckily, iRacing a little more forgiving, doesn't always do that stuff. The number 6 truck coming onto pit road, the top running guy that pitted. And Peter, I think if they really save, they might be able to make it from here. So interesting that the 6, I believe the 8 behind him pitted, a bunch of trucks running a little bit further back pitted, trying to gamble that they can make it from here.
Yeah, this is going to be really close on the pit window, in my opinion. I didn't think they would be able to make it to lap or 80 laps into the run. I think it was going to be very close, but who knows? You might be able to save just a little bit. Ben Izenga, Philip Scott, Doug Neal, Travis White, your top 3 staying out here under this caution flag. Trying to see who is your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award under this caution flag. It might be Garrett Gleason. Maybe. Not sure at all whether it was the number 7 of Garrett Gleason, but presumably Brookstone Animal Hospital giving out yet another lucky dog here tonight. Can confirm Chris Darling has not returned to the racetrack in the number 11 Taz Racing Customs Ford F-150. It will be another DNF for him. We got Johnny Williams in the chat saying, hey, I passed out, missed most of the race. Johnny, are we that boring? Are we that boring up here in the booth? The Wild Child, John Canizaro Jr. in the chat as well saying, I just got back here. What has happened? Well, you missed some exciting first 30 laps. There was a big stack up, involved about 7 or 8 trucks, and then we had a long green flag run all the way to our stage caution, and then it's been fairly steady. We had another long green flag run there in the middle, but it seems like there's been a steady flow of caution flags every 5 to 10 laps or so since as we close in here. With 80 laps to go as I had to sneeze.
Well, bless you, Peter. As they said in medieval times, because they thought demons were coming out of your body when you sneeze. Interesting little tidbit right there. But it's just, I love fuel mileage races. It's one of the things that I miss most about modern NASCAR is they basically artificially ensure that there won't be any fuel mileage races. I just think it's one of the more fun kind of random things. It's not just kind of, and it's not random, right? Like you are choosing strategy and using skill to save enough fuel relative to your competitors to get out there and grab the victory, which is just as valid as anything else. To me, like shortened races are kind of gimmicky. I mean, it happens. Luckily, less so now with rain tires on road courses, as I experienced firsthand at Circuit of the Americas this year. But it's just fun. It's fun to watch these guys try to figure out, what do I need to do to save fuel? Turn this thing off through the corners and throughout the lap under caution, and then let off early, throw it in neutral going into the corner. It's a whole lot of fun, and it just kind of adds to this. And sometimes you can do everything right, and you're just not quite quick enough relative to, especially what I suspect Ben Izinga will be able to accomplish by just doing a normal pit stop and coming down and taking fresh tires. But folks, we're going to find out here in the next 80 laps or so, as Ben Izinga, another great restart, king of the restarts tonight, has been that number 07 of Ben Izinga. Philip Scott in second. Now that number 77 of Doug Neal, passing his teammate, hopefully for third position. That number 6 truck was the first guy that came down pit road as far as we're concerned right now in the running order. He's getting by the number 23 truck, and then I think a whole bunch of these guys, including James Lorello and the 49, the 971 of Nathan Maurer, the 8 of Drew Hillman, are going to be trying to fight their way through these guys up to Ben Izinga, and then some of them are going to be trying to save fuel here, Peter.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if any of these drivers can indeed save enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. But Izenga out front right now, and caution flag is waving as I say that. What has happened here to bring out another caution flag? Let's watch the number 55 of Steven Dozniak, hearing that he might be the culprit in this one, going through turn number 1 and 2. If similar deal. Drew just gets loose coming out of turn number 2. I think that's about the 3rd or 4th consecutive caution that we've seen something very similar to that on these cold tires. It just seems like they don't have a lot of grip when those tires are cold.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. We saw it bite that number 11 truck there on that restart. And so pit road is closed, and the 23 has come down anyways. That will be an end of longest line for Travis White. I don't know, I didn't see any contact to the outside wall or something like that. Typically when guys do that, they are trying to get some damage repaired, and you just get an extra pit stop, essentially, trying to get that thing all fixed up before hopefully the race restarts. As we definitely know Garrett Gleason got the Lucky Dog Award that time, as we saw that number 7 flying by on the outside. Garrett Gleason, the recipient of the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. And Peter, I kind of expect everybody who didn't pit that last time to pit this time once pit road opens, but it is still closed this time by.
Yeah, not sure what's up with that, or maybe iRacing giving us broadcasters a glitch or something. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, back under caution flag here. Izenga, Scott, Neal, Cherry, Dumas, your top 5 as they run around the racetrack here under caution flag. You can see the, let's bring up the pace speed right there, about 50 miles an hour behind the iRacing Kyodai. It's a iRacing pace car that they took a Kia and a Hyundai and an Audi. They smashed them together and made a Kyodai. And there is the Kyodai up at the front of the field. It is unbranded, but yeah, it kind of looks like a race car, or not race car, but a pace car, I guess. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. It appears we're down to 15 trucks on the lead lap. Just seeing if the number 7 of Garrett Gleason, I think he was Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. So Garrett Gleason will be back on the lead lap in the number 7 Thornton Graphics machine. Also has done Raceway Park on that truck, as well as Master Millwright. Garrett Gleason, of course, the administrator of the fellow Total Nonstop Racing series that we broadcast here on 3 Wide TV on Monday nights. And their season just got underway this past week here on 3 Wide TV. Big shout out to everyone that we have going on in the chat here tonight. Johnny Williams saying, no, sir, you guys are not that boring. I had a short amount of sleep last night and a long day watching some of my grandkids. I'll tell you what, Johnny, that will definitely wear you out. Go rest easy there, buddy. But big shout out to everyone that we have in the chat here on 3 Wide TV here tonight, because, like I mentioned kind of at the top of the show, we just recently hit 900 subscribers here on the channel. We'll go check that out right now. We're up to 908 subscribers. I think that's another 2 subscribers here tonight on 3 Wide TV. That is absolutely incredible. We're closing in on that 1,000 mark, Drew, and we haven't figured out, actually we have figured out, there is a special video that's going to come out when we hit 1,000 viewers. So that's going to be fun and exciting. So we have a special video coming out at 1,000 viewers, and then we can apply to be monetized and make pennies, literally pennies from YouTube. They would give us hardly anything, and we'd have to share maybe half a penny a month between all of everyone in 3 Wide TV. It's just not worth it, but we can get custom emotes and we can do some fun things with the fans watching us on the channel, so we really appreciate your support here going forward. Pace car down onto pit road. Drew, we're back racing.
Here we go. Izinga, another great restart right there. The 99, surely that's aggressive. It's always interesting to see if they enforce the change lanes rule or not, because that number 99 closed the door on that outside lane, and I don't think that's very sporting of him, as he's really blocking it. Oh, yep, that is not surprising there. That was really aggressive blocking by the number 99 of Philip Scott, and I think the 6 said, nah, bud, I'm going to be underneath you, and if you're going to keep going down, then this is what's going to happen. And ultimately, the number 99 paid the price for that, but like they say, you pinch, you pay.
Well, let's get another look at this one, and we're going to put it down into 3 Wide TV slow motion for this one. You see the number 99 coming down, throwing the block on the number 6 machine of Matt Cherry, and it's tight. Cherry going a little bit lower on the racetrack, and I think the number 99 was still coming down the racetrack there, Drew. And those 2 trucks making contact, and Philip Scott ending up wadded up inside the outside fence. That number 99, significant damage, and I'm sure Cherry's going to say, you know what, man, he just blocked me so much, there's not much really I could have really done out of that whole incident. Let's see if we can go and get another look out back of the number 99 machine. You see the 6 of Cherry kind of hanging tough on the outside. Cherry gets a run here coming out of turn number 2. He cuts to the inside, then the 99 throws the block. Man, that is just hard racing here at Richmond. Unfortunately for Philip Scott, he ends up wadded up in the fence.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly unfortunate, but I just don't think at a place like Richmond that blocking like that, especially going into a corner, really is super necessary. The 6 had a huge run. He goes to the inside. The 99 is definitely coming down across the 6's nose, just kind of watching it from a chase perspective. And that's just what's going to happen when you block at places like this. There's defensive driving, right? But like, there's a reason in IndyCar they ban reactive blocking. you can be proactive, and I wouldn't have had a problem if the 99 had kind of faded down. But if the guy gets a run on you like that, and you try to close the door like Philip did, it's just going to end like that most of the time, especially when you're racing guys like Matt Cherry. Matt Cherry, not known for his lack of go and get it attitude, right? Like, he's certainly a guy that's aggressive and is well, I think once he's on the inside of you, he's going to hold that position. He's not going to back out of it. And yep, I think that was just 9 times out of 10 going to be the end result of those actions.
So we are seeing that whether or not the administrators have put the blame on Matt Cherry or not, it might be one of those deals where they say, well, yeah, Cherry could have backed off, or maybe Philip Scott could have given him more room. But it looks like the number 6 truck will be tagged to the tail end of the longest line. Philip Scott coming down to try and get some damage repaired on that truck as well. But a couple of trucks up near the front of the field here tonight now with some significant issues to overcome. And look who's made his way back up into second. That would be James Lorello, of course, going here tonight for the Buttkicker Challenge. He qualified on pole here tonight, decided right here in the booth to drop to the tail end of the field right at the start. That makes him eligible to pick up the $50 prize for winning, brought to you by Buttkicker. Make sure you check them out, thebuttkicker.com. There's a link in the description of the video if you want to take your sim rig up a notch in more ways than one. Buttkicker can help you out with that, and they can also help this man get a little bit more rich here tonight. Not saying he's rich by any means, but James Zorello up there at the front of the field to the outside of his teammate Ben Izenga. And Drew, the big question is going to be, when can anyone keep up with the 0-7 on these restarts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a guy in James Lorello who is certainly capable of doing it. It's just that Izenga has seemed to nail every single one of these. We'll see if he does it again right here. It's a good one. I mean, it's a really good one, but maybe not quite as much as some previous ones. 0.4 of a second, though, is quite a lot, as now James Lorello being challenged by the number 77 of Doug Neal. Lorello been so good on that high lane throughout tonight. I think he did a really great job exiting turn 2 there. He clears those two now racing side by side, or the 8 and the 77. Drew Himmelman with a great run out of turn 4. He clears Doug Neal. Is he going to try to make a move to the inside of Lorello? He does not. And now the 28 of Jamar Dumas and the 971 of Nathan Maurer racing side by side for 5th position as they run through a little bit of smoke there. I'll just go investigate and see exactly what happened to cause that little bit of smoke there, Peter.
All right, a little bit of investigation work as well. Speaking of smoke, the 43 and the 2 are on pit road. Evan Burke and Justin White are coming down pit road together, and that's not a scheduled pit stop, that is for sure. Let's see if we can see what happened to these two drivers here on the 3Y TV replay. Evan Burke to the inside of Justin White going off into turn number 3. Looks like the 43 pushes up the racetrack, and Matt Cherry just squeaking on through. And both of those trucks ending up down there on pit lane. Not where you want to be here at Richmond International Raceway, especially under green flag conditions. Let's see if we can jump back to live conditions here, and we now have a caution. Trying to see if the caution was due to that contact or whether or not there was something else that went down. And we think there might have been here, Drew. So let's go dial up the 3Y TV replay graphic again, and let's watch what happened here to Jason Shue in the number 3 machine. Looking out front, coming out of turn number 2, and he just what we've seen a couple times here tonight, gets on the power a little bit too much into the inside wall. And, well, that didn't bring out the caution just yet.
So what happened, Peter, is an admin threw the caution. That's what the race rundown is telling me. Just based on, I mean, I think that crash going into pit lane is kind of worthy of that, right? That was a pretty substantial impact. The only reason it didn't is because they were off the racing surface, but that was a big incident. So not terribly surprised there. Not unwarranted. I mean, there was a car 90 degrees sideways on the racing surface. 9 times out of 10, iRacing is going to throw that caution. But I guess it was just really a creative pit stop entrance by that 43 truck.
Agreed. It was an interesting way to get to pit road. Definitely not the best way to get to pit road, but a way to get to pit road nonetheless. Meanwhile, we do have a change in the race lead. My oh my, James Zarello, folks. This is going to tell you the story down there in the bottom. Well, never mind. It does not tell you the story because these drivers have pitted so many times here tonight. The graphic is struggling, but. James Zarello drew 2 tires on the number 9 machine versus Ben Izenga, who just took 4. Jamar Dumas also taking 2 tires in the number 28 truck, so he's going to be up to 3rd for this upcoming restart. And then Andrew Himmelman, Nathan Maurer, Doug Neal, and company, they all took 4 on back. So Lorello here and Dumas throwing the dice here with now just about 60 laps to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can the king of restarts tonight now retain that title when he's not controlling the restarts? And what will 2 tires do? I don't think I have observed a truck take 2 tires tonight. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. That just means I don't think I saw it, which, take that for what it's worth. But with how loose these guys are getting, typically 2 tires doesn't tighten up your truck. It just helps it rotate even more, which on a long run might be beneficial. But I think on these short runs, it's going to be a big challenge for that number 9 to keep that thing, pointed in the right direction consistently. But it's going to be interesting if he gets a good enough restart and maybe 3rd position is able to get by that number 07. Then Lorello's in a pretty good position.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know whether or not those pace car lights are going to turn off here under this lap. Yes, they will. I was going to say if they didn't, we were going to see if we could pick up the number 9 machine of James Zarello for a quick word. You saw Matt Vander Kooi getting one of his laps back. He is many, many, many laps down in the S2R number 60 Milwaukee Brewers F-150. We believe that maybe Jason Shue, no, maybe not Jason Shue, maybe Nick Bradley was the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award under this caution. Nick Bradley being scored right now 3 laps down in his truck, although Philip Scott back there appears to be tail end of the longest line, so maybe he was a lap down. Not 100% sure, but anyway, Jeff Price is also back out there on the racetrack. He was involved in an early accident. He just got around Chris Darling for the 20th position. Green flag back in the air, and it is the number 9 machine of Lorello. Now the big question is going to be, Drew, can those 2 tires hold on to the race lead as he's got his teammate Ben Izenga all over his back bumper?
Well, turns 1 and 2 weren't perfect for the number 9, but he still maintained that race lead. The 07 had a little bit of moment on the exit as well, as now Drew Himmelman's all over the back bumper of Izenga, but about as good as you could have expected of a restart from that number 9. But Izenga just gets such a run going into turn 1. He cut that lead in just about in half, if not more so, as a battle right here for, I believe, 4th position between the 971 and the 28. But back up front, Peter, that 07 almost gave the bumper to the number 9 of James Lorello here. And just watch how much speed he's able to carry through corner entry. Maybe not quite as good on exit. In fact, a little bit of a slip up right there. A little defensive right there with the 8 of Drew Himmelman behind him. But it's going to be a big, big ask for James Lorello to hold off Izenga. What he really wants to see is Izenga and Drew Himmelman to mix it up behind him. I think that is his best shot to be able to bring this thing home. But 50 laps is a long time on just 2 tires.
Yeah, make that 55 laps this time by as we go across the start-finish line. It is the number 9 machine who is up at the front of the field. Ben Adams might have just had a moment a couple laps ago in the number 5 machine. It seems like he is back going, but he's lost quite a bit of time to Garrett Gleason, who is the next truck in front of him. You kind of got a glimpse there of that gap between Garrett and the number 5 truck. We'll see if we can come back to see what happened to Ben here in just a moment. But while this battle for the race lead is so red hot, don't really want to pan away from it to go figure out what happened to Ben. Ben is currently running in the 14th position after what was a very strong early showing. We'll have to see whether or not he can get things gathered back up. Lorello, Izenga, Himmelman, your top three. Then a small gap back to Doug Neal and Nathan Maurer in that orange machine. Mitchell Adams lurking back behind Maurer, as well as Jamar Dumas. Matt Cherry, Drew, has worked his way back up into the 8th position in the number 6 truck.
Yeah, Matt Cherry, a good recovery considering that his race almost ended as, Izenga really sent it in on the bottom right there. This is going to be interesting, not able to keep it underneath Lorello, but I think Izenga really sees the opportunity to grab a victory here, and he's not going to not win tonight because of the lack of effort. He is really driving that 07 into the corner. The 9 a little defensive that time by, but not quite able to hold the bottom as well as Izenga. That's definitely the 2 tires right there making their presence known for Lorello. Lorello's just going to have to be so defensive. And now these guys are teammates, but I don't really think Izenga super cares right now. I think he really wants this victory here tonight, as he has been able to get away from Drew Himmelman with no pressure out back, really able to fully focus on what's going down out of that front windshield there, as just going to be pounding the rear bumper of James Dorello, just waiting for a slip. Just waiting. You don't need to put the bumper to him right now. We still have plenty of time to go, but there you go. The number 9 just slips up a little bit. Will that give the 07 enough room? Not quite, but that's the kind of opportunity Izenga is looking for right there, is just enough to get the nose in. And I think if he's able to get underneath Lorello, I just don't think that number 9 really has the tires underneath him to be able to hold off Izenga.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, Izenga's all over the back bumper of the number 9 machine. The only thing that maybe Lorello can think about is maybe he can pinch that 07, and now Izenga with a run to the inside, it's going to be even more difficult for Lorello, because we've seen that outside line be strong, at least in turn number 3 and 4. But Izenga having the advantage of the fresher tires as well, it is going to make things a little bit more difficult for Lorello, although he holds on for now. They're tight again through turn number 3 and 4, and still Lorello holding on to the lead. We've got 46 more laps here tonight at Richmond Raceway, and Andrew Himmelman probably liking what he's seeing up front, maybe saying, you know what, you teammates, go have at it. Burn up your tires, and I'll just save a little bit and come attack both of you once you've eaten up all your stuff.
Yeah, and a heck of a battle up here. I just want to acknowledge that neon yellow truck that we see right there in Doug Neal. A great run from Doug. He is in 4th position, a really, really good showing tonight from him. But up front, Izenga just hounding the number 9. And Peter, 40 plus laps. That's a long time to race like this if you're the number 9. That's just so many opportunities to make the smallest mistake that during normal circumstances, when you have better tires, wouldn't really do anything for you. But when you got a guy behind you that probably has more pace than you and has fresher tires, I think that is one of those deals that it's a lot to ask of a driver. But maybe the 2 tires as this run goes on are going to be an advantage. I think they're going to help that number 9 keep that rotation that it seems like guys struggle with as these runs go on.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, this run is kind of got a little bit of a green flag feel to it from what we have seen tonight. Most of the caution flags happen within 5 to 10 laps of a green flag run. Once those tires warm up, it seems like these race trucks get a little bit tighter, especially out of the corners. You see Lorello here catching to the back of Matt Vanderkoy in the number 60. Now he has to deal with the lap traffic of Ben Adams, who is the last truck on the lead lap in the 14th position. Lorello now looking to the high side of Adams. Adams going to stay low here as they go off into turn number 1. Keep an eye on the number 5 truck. Make sure he doesn't wash up the racetrack. Does a little bit, as that might open the door for the 07 of Izenga. Are we going to have 3 wide on 3 wide TV? Yes, we will. Izenga through the middle. There's contact between the 07 and the 9, and look at that. Lorello barged out of the way by his teammate. Give the race lead to Ben Izenga.
Yeah, I think if I were Lorello, I would give the bumper to that 5 going into turn 1. I understand that you're battling the race leader, but to wash up like that when you got to battle for the race lead is not awesome. I would be mad if I were that number 9 truck. That certainly doesn't sound like me, folks. But you can't give the leader the high lane like that and then wash up to the center. That's not super courteous here for that number 5 truck, who is, I think, inevitably going to lose that lap. It's not great to kind of influence those race results. But Peter, am I mistaken in believing that maybe the number 5 and the 9 have gotten into it in the past together?
I think they have. I know there has been some antics out there on the racetrack involving some of the drivers. Meanwhile, just looking at my scoring pylon right now and seeing what's kind of happening out there on the racetrack, and Jamar Dumas and Matt Cherry locked in this battle for position. Matt Cherry in the number 6 just trying to get around Jamar Dumas. That will move Cherry up to the 7th position. They'll move him up another spot. Meanwhile, Doug Neal right there in the 77, right in front of Nathan Maurer. That is the battle for the 4th position. Mitchell Adams in tow in the MaxGrafix.co 49 machine as well. So some good battles happening out on the racetrack. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Izenga's got has not been able to stretch the lead on the number 9 machine a whole lot at this moment in time, but we still have 36 laps to go as they run right now. Steven Doziak Jr. Making some moves as well right there, trying to get past Philip Scott. This is actually a battle, I think a 4-way battle for position right now. We'll see if we can bring up that battle. It's Steven Doziak, Philip Scott, and Garrett Gleason. I guess that's a 3-way battle with those 3 trucks right there. So move Doziak up to 11th. Philip Scott now back to 12th, and Garrett Gleason, who got that Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award not all too long ago, he is battling for that 12th position with Philip Scott. Pick it up, G Money there in the number 7 machine, trying to bring home the money here tonight. See if he can end up with a top 10 in the Thornton Graphics Chevy Silverado. Meanwhile, up in front of them, Justin White is the 10th place truck. Justin White is the 10th place truck. Travis White is the 9th place truck. And then, we got the same kind of battles going on. Here's Doug Neal trying to get around Ben Adams, 971, and Nathan Maurer back behind him. Ben Izenga still holding on to about a 2/10 advantage over Lorello, but Lorello's been closing in a little bit here, Drew. I think this might be something we keep our eyes on, because you never know. Lorello might give a little bit of a bumper to the back of that 07 truck.
It'll be interesting to see. I think there's kind of more on the line for Izenga, right? Not having a win, as we look at what happened to the number 40, who pops the wall and just kind of sends her to the inside. Does a good job not hitting anything and rejoining fairly courteously. It's such a hard rejoin right there. Ooh, as he pounds the pit wall. Because of that pit wall going into turn 1, if you get into that grass or you're just kind of low, there's not a lot of room for you to go. There's not even a truck width of apron right there. So that's pretty challenging. But kind of back to this battle for potentially the race win. Just Izenga has a lot more to lose than Lorello. Lorello already with a win, locked into the chase if he doesn't miss any more races. Now looking at Doug Neal, lost the 4th position to Nathan Maurer that he held earlier in this run, but still a very solid top 5 for the number 77 truck. Mitchell Adams there, though, behind him, going to be looking to continue to pressure to try to grab that top 5. And Mitchell, this is just what he's so good at doing. Not had the pace that we're used to with the 49, but just been quietly doing what he needs to do and is now hunting down a top 5. But James Lorello has done such a good job to be able to hang with Izenga. I thought once Izenga got around him that it would just be free and clear for that 07 to just scoot away from that number 9. Not the case. I do think those 2 tires, Peter, are really helping that 9 rotate center off, and that's how he is keeping with that 07 thus far.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm extremely impressed. And the number 9, Lorello, not out of the picture just yet. And remember, $50 on the line, Drew. Picking up that butt kicker, or trying to pick up that butt kicker challenge, is Lorello here tonight. That is a decent chunk of change, and that's definitely going to be weighing in the back of the mind of that number 9 machine. Let's go check out the chat here as we're coming in with now just 27, make that 26 laps to go this time by. Stay Tuned Sports says, brings me back to, does Ben let the number 9 win the challenge? I don't know. I don't know if that was in the back of the mind of Ben Adams here tonight. I know Stay Tuned Sports is rooting on the number 9 machine. Of course, that is the truck that Stay Tuned Sports sponsors here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Tana Himmelman saying Andrew's back in the mix. Well, was back in the mix for a while. Andrew's kind of falling off the back just a little bit here, unfortunately. So definitely going to be interesting to see how this race shakes out between these two. We continue to focus on these top 2. It is the best battle for position right now, really anywhere out there on the racetrack. Just kind of looking at the intervals between the different drivers, the next closest battle would be the battle for the 5th position between Doug Neal and Mitchell Adams. That's right on about a half a second, but Drew, Lorello got a great run out of turn number 2 there, and he was kind of showing the 07 of Izenga, hey buddy, I'm here.
Yeah, no, he certainly is. He's just getting off of 2 consistently better than Izenga. Not quite with it has the same advantage coming out of 4 that he does turn 2, but the 9 just is flying out of turn 2. You saw it once again. It seemed like he gained about half a truck length coming out of turn 2. We'll see if that 9 can get a good run out of 4. Another solid run. He's never ever losing time. It's just, where is he going to be able to make a move? It's so challenging here at Richmond that if you're just a little bit quicker, like it almost seems like Lorello is, how do you set up a pass here? Because the lanes are fairly determined. There's not 2 viable lanes here, really. So that can be a real challenge. Now the number 60 truck, is he going to compromise the corner entry? He does for Izenga. I don't think he does for Lorello. Lorello almost gets into the back bumper of his teammate right there. He really drove that number 9 in, trying to get underneath him.
Stay Tuned Sports in the chat saying, don't forget to check out Wine, Whiskey, and Review, where Stay Tuned Sports and the wife talk about movie and TV shows. Definitely one thing to check out after the race. But yeah, Drew, that was almost a little bit of bumper-on-bumper action between Izenga and the number 9 machine that last time by as they head down the backstretch. I'm so impressed with the way this number 9 machine can keep with Izenga up there at the front of the field. Here we go off into turn number 1 and 2. That time, not as close, but we're coming down. We're inside 20 laps to go now, and it's just a matter of time, I think, before that number 9 puts some type of a bumper to the back bumper of the 07.
They are teammates, so it'll be interesting to see as now they're navigating that 18. Will this hold up the 07 of Izenga? I think it kind of held both of those guys up fairly equally. Lorello not really gaining a significant advantage right there. It's tricky with its team when you're racing teammates. You typically don't want to move them, but $50 for like a non-professional race as like a bonus to win is a decent chunk of change. As I said earlier, $50 is a whole lot of Taco Bell. So it's going to be interesting to see if Izenga would be understanding with that. It's just going to make for an awkward team get-together if the S2R guys do that kind of stuff, after this race. If that number 9 stays with Izenga long enough and then decides to use the bumper, but Izenga with about as big of a lead as he's had since he's gotten by Lorello. Yeah,
you're definitely not wrong. It seems like maybe the 07 able to scoot away a little bit. You saw Lorello trying a little bit higher line there through turn number 3 and 4. It didn't seem like that worked out for that truck there, although he was able to close up to Izenga on the front stretch. So I don't know, just when we think maybe it's starting to expand a little bit, the number 9 of Lorello closes back in. Maybe he just wanted to cool off his tires just a little bit. And of course, the big thing in the standings here, after Talladega Super Speedway, Ben Izenga in the 07 machine, Drew, he's yet to get to victory lane this season in that truck. So I think we've had, 7 different winners here in the first 9 races of the season. And so I just think that maybe Ben Izenga says, you know what, I don't want to let this one slip away from me. I want to become the 8th different winner here tonight. And of course, Jason Gracias in the number 1 machine. We talked about it at the top of the show that you need at least... you have to run so many races. I think you have to run 10 races to be eligible to make the playoffs, and he's only started 6 races. And there are not that many races left. I don't think there are 4 races left after tonight. There are only 3 races before the chase. So we know 1 spot is going to be open up, and that's Jason Gracias, who will no longer be eligible for the playoffs based on win and you're in logic. And I don't think he's going to be eligible through the point systems either. So that is going to open up the playing field just a little bit more. But Izenga wants to punch his ticket into the playoffs here tonight with a win.
Absolutely. In 3.5 tenths, Lorello 0.01 seconds faster, but caution flag. Caution flag. This really changes the dynamic of this race. The number 14 is who we're looking at right now. What happens here? Does he lose the truck going into turn 1? Yep, sure does. Loops it around, and usually, I bet it's when cautions out before he backs it up. So typically, iRacing doesn't necessarily throw cautions if you spin onto the apron. Did in that situation, but Peter, I think you got to take tires here, right?
Oh, yeah, you're coming down. You're taking 4 tires. That is for sure. Don't think this is a 2-tire call situation. But, looking at the lap count, we have less than 10 laps to go, and we'll have a shootout here. And there's always potential for Beer Street Journal's last calls here in the Beer Street Journal 200. Why not? Let's slap the Beer Street Journal last call and the Beer Street Journal 200. Big shout out to them as the series sponsor for the overtime green, white checker, whatever you want to call it, as well as tonight's race sponsor, but Lorello in his pit box. And remember, Drew, he has that very last pit stall on pit road, which could be pretty advantageous here. We'll see who's going to win the race. Will it be Lorello or the 07 of Izenga who will win the race off pit road, I should say. Izenga's down and away, and now Lorello is down and away. So it looks like Lorello will be the second truck off pit road, and it looks to me at least like Andrew Himmelman might have lost a spot to Nathan Maurer. We'll see if iRacing scores that as Steven Doziak Jr., I think, picks up your Brookstone Animal Lucky Dog Award.
Yeah, and now with equal tires between these 2 drivers up front, it's going to be interesting to see how much do they work with each other as far as this restart's concerned. You know, I know you and I have worked together in the past on these restarts when we were teammates to ensure that it was a battle between us. We would both nail the restart, and then all the guys behind us would lose a little bit of time, and then we would battle it out amongst ourselves. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's the case here, or if Izenga says, we're competitors. We might be teammates, but we're competitors, and we're not playing that cooperation game. We'll find out here in just a few laps, but Lorello just seemed to slip just a little bit towards the tail end of that last run. He would maintain 1 lap and then lose a 0.5 tenth the next lap, and then maintain and then lose 1/10 the next lap, and then he would gain a little bit, but then he would lose a little bit, and it just seemed like the pendulum was swinging the way of the 07. I think the 9, didn't love this caution just because it introduces a whole lot of chaos, but I think it provides him an opportunity that he might not have had the caution not come out, because it looked like Izinga was really starting to solidify that race lead.
And now they'll both be on equal footing on the tire situation as well. So could be a very exciting shootout here, as we're just waiting for those iRacing pace car lights to be extinguished here. A couple of drivers there taking the wave around: Kyle Lewis, Garrett Gleason, and Ben Adams. You see them going past that pace car right there. That's a good heads-up move by those drivers. Don't think they're going to lose a lap in 5 laps here, as you will see that the iRacing pace car lights have turned off. And Drew, 5 laps to decide the win, and looks like Izinga, he's preferred that high line for these restarts all night long. He's doing so again, but just think, if Lorello could time the restart perfectly, then he would probably have the preferred line into turn number 1. I don't think that Izinga here is going to give the number 9 of Lorello any clue when he's going to go and hit the loud pedal here on this restart.
Yeah, and with the 9, if he's able to keep with him, he can kind of force that 07 a little high. He's not, though. Once again, Izinga gets a great restart. The number 9 of Lorello not only didn't keep even with the 07, he's going to be battling Nathan Maurer right here. Lorello sends it in too deep into the outside wall, and there goes his race into the outside wall again. Matt Vanderkoy involved, and now a big pileup on the backstretch, and that was just a result of the 9 just sending it into the corner, trying to make up that ground that he lost on that restart. And there went the back end out from underneath him. Here's the replay for you, folks. You see he's right next to the 971, and he just sends it into the corner way too deep, trying to make up that ground, gets into the outside wall and is trying to save it. And then ultimately, unfortunately, guys like Matt Vanderkoy and the number 18 truck, and I believe the 55, get caught up in that as well. And a whole bunch more torn up trucks. And Lorello now, I believe, apologizing over the radio. I have my voice chat turned way down, obviously, when we're broadcasting, so it doesn't bleed over the audio. But a whole lot of radio chatter right now with the 9 queuing up there. And it looked like Doziak got through it. He must have just gotten tagged there on the left rear there, Peter. But just a little bit of desperation from that number 9 is I think, what caused all that to happen.
Yeah, let's see if we can figure out what happened to the number 55 of Steven Doziak. Kyle Lewis in the number 18 back behind him. No, I think he got net-coated, unfortunately, in the number 55 truck. Kyle Lewis, also that engine grenading on the truck, and unfortunately the number 9 machine as well. James Arello, that truck is absolutely toast here tonight. So I'll tell you what, Drew, we have seen this season that the Buttkicker Challenge has been kicking the butt of all of the drivers who have gone ahead to try and take advantage of it, to try and win some extra cash. And here again tonight, Buttkicker kicking the butt of the field, as I think we got to see the number 3 machine of Jason Shue picking up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award under this particular caution. And it does indeed look like we're going to have a Beer Street Journal last call in the Beer Street Journal 200 here at Richmond Raceway. Izinga, Maurer, Himmelman, Mitchell Adams, and Doug Neal, your top 5 here for the impending restart.
Yeah, and just nobody's had the measure of the 07 like that number 9 did. I think there's a little less pressure on him on this restart, but I mean, still, all it takes is that 971 to get a good jump right here, and then he's got a whole heap of trouble. That's the problem with that outside lane, is that guy on the bottom can really dictate where you can run through the corner. And if Nathan Maurer gets a good restart, hangs on the left side of that 07, he can force the 07 to not get to the bottom. Right, like he can force that. He could run basically that middle groove, and now the 07 is way up and out of the groove and kind of in the marbles and stuff. That's an option when you're on the bottom. You can kind of, again, get your elbows out and really dictate where that guy to the outside of you is going to go. You can't do that when you're on the outside lane. I think why the 07 is doing, choosing this outside lane repeatedly is, number 1, he's just nailed it all night. Now riding on board with the number 8 truck, he's just nailed the restart from the outside all night long. And number 2, it's really hard to see out of the right side of the truck. and time it. I think it's harder to do that when you have the leader starting to the outside than to the inside, where you just kind of got to look over and wait for that truck to surge forward. It gives you just a little bit extra advantage. Plus, the high lane seems to work initially right off the start.
And you can see, looking out front right now of the 6th place number 6 machine, driven by Matt Cherry, we are getting set to go back green here. Izenga again, going to restart on the high line. Maurer on the inside groove, just like what you were talking about, Drew. Mitchell Adams, Andrew Himmelman on row number 2 for the restart. Matt Cherry, Doug Neal on row number 3. And then back there, Jamar Dumas and Travis White, row number 4. And rounding out your top 10, Garrett Gleason, who's back there with a couple of other trucks. Green flag back in the air. Izenga again early on the loud pedal. We have 2 laps to go here at Richmond International Raceway. Who will take the prize here in the Beer Street Journal 200? Nathan Maurer able to clear the number 8 machine. Maurer gets loose. Contact with Andrew Himmelman. The number 8 machine is involved. The 971 goes around, and we are under caution again, and we're going to have another Beer Street Journal last call in the Beer Street Journal 200. My, oh my, that happening again. 2nd position, it seems cursed.
Yeah, it just, once again, the 971, I mean, relative to the 07, now the 07 has enough of a lead to where he can be a little easy going into turn 1. But watch how much that 971 closes up. A whole truck length going in, he fades a little high because he overdrives it, and then he's just trying to throttle up and just gets a little loose. And then once you get loose, you got to get out of the throttle unless you're Kyle Busch. And then when he got out of the throttle, there was nowhere for the 8 to go. Got into the back of him. Around he went. Caution is out. The 8 with some significant damage. And Peter, look who's in 2nd position now.
That would be your reigning series champion, the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams. And we're trying to just go back and see if we can get another. Ooh, that wasn't quite early enough, unfortunately. Let's see if we can go back a little bit further. Here we go. On board with Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 Sim Shots machine. Watch Nathan Maurer just get loose right there. There's the contact, and man, that number 8 machine, unfortunate, as you see Mitchell Adams and Matt Cherry squeaking on by to get themselves up into the top 3. Although iRacing is scoring this one a little bit interestingly, Drew, because I expected that Andrew Himmelman was going to lose all that track position, but I guess when the caution flag flew, he was in the 3rd position, so iRacing will score him in 3rd. So that caution flag must have come out pretty darn quickly. So Andrew Himmelman there coming out a little bit lucky, although he has that front end damage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has the damage. He didn't hit the 971 very hard. It's kind of surprising that there's as much rendered damage to that 8 as there is, because that truck looks pretty rough. But I mean, I think in real life, I don't think he would have much damage at all. So we'll see how that actually affects his performance. But iRacing can just do weird things when the caution comes out and guys are sliding around, and where it kind of reserves track position for certain guys and not others. And it certainly was to the benefit of that number 8. I mean, had NASCAR been scoring this, yeah, he would probably be back in like 8th position or so is where he fell back to, as the 971 was just kind of spinning around. But it's certainly working out for Drew right here, and it's going to give him a shot where if these 2 guys in front of him get together, he's going to have the opportunity to possibly take advantage. But it just never fails, does it, that Mitchell Adams just figures out a way. When he didn't have the pace tonight to run 2nd. He just didn't. He was never in this position all night. And he just lets the guys around him make mistakes, take themselves out, get caught up in other people's stuff. And Mitchell just keeps on going and finds himself towards the front once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, we only do get 2 chances at a Beer Street Journal last call. So I'm dubbing this the Beer Street Journal 200, Beer Street Journal last call, last call. Or maybe it should be the Beer Street Journal 200, Beer Street Journal last call. I don't know. But either way, it makes somewhat sense here in the Beer Street Journal 200 in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Stay Tuned Sports, say that 5 times. You didn't say fast, so I could say it as slow as I wanted to. Dang it. They said fast. Well, I'm not going to, because we're going to have some fast race cars out there on the racetrack here, hopefully very shortly, as the pace car lights have turned off for what we hope is the final time here tonight. It'll definitely be our final restart of the race as the pace car does go down pit road. Izenga on the loud pedal. Mitchell Adams getting caught sleeping there in the number 49. Here comes Matt Cherry in the number 6 to the outside. Himmelman did lose a spot. Looks like he slid back to 4th. I don't know what iRacing is doing, but they're side by side for 2nd as Izenga scoots away.
Yeah, another perfect restart for Izenga. He's just nailed these all night long. He is well clear of that number 6 behind him. As we take the white flag, the real battle right here is for 3rd position, as Mitchell Adams went from 2nd to now 4th as Drew Himmelman around him solidly. Can Mitchell Adams respond? The number 8 gets really, really loose coming out of turn 2. Mitchell Adams is going to send it on the inside. Can Drew Himmelman respond? He's trying, but up front, Ben Izenga wins at Richmond. The number 6 of Matt Cherry in 2nd, and Drew Himmelman rounds out our podium.
Yeah, Travis White in the back of the pack also going off the racetrack right there at the end of the race. Looks like Travis is going to be scored with an 8th place finish here tonight, but it is the Canadian driver, Ben Izenga, the 07, going to victory lane for the first time this season. And Drew, that is something that I think is long deserved. I think Ben Izenga here has been so strong this season, is deserving of getting to victory lane here, and becomes the 8th different winner in the opening 10 races of the season, folks. Can you believe that one? That is one heck of a statistic here on 3 Wide TV. The only drivers to repeat so far this season in victory lane has been Jason Gracias and Mitchell Adams. And Izenga, a strong, dominating performance here tonight on 3 Wide TV. Definitely been very interesting to see that. Let's see if we can get a word with some of our top finishers here tonight of Cherry, Himmelman, and of course our race winner of the Beer Street Journal 200, Ben Izenga. Just sorting my way through the booths here or the different channels and trying to make sure that I get everyone down here into the booth. And Drew, why don't you start with tonight's 3rd place finisher, Andrew Himmelman?
Drew Himmelman, Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
I got you, man.
Well, Drew, I mean, really solid pace all night long, running 2nd for a large portion of the race. Ultimately bring it home at 3rd, despite a little bit of late race drama. Just give us a rundown of how it went down through your perspective.
That last caution thing, I have no worries about that. I was actually a caution of one of the spins earlier, so I completely understand his struggles there. But honestly, that race is probably the most fun I've had all season. I feel like we were really wheeling the trucks, really saving the tires. And honestly, I came into this race not thinking I was going to do very well, because I've never been one of the best tire savers in the league. But tonight we really saved them well, and we were able to race top 3, top 2 all night, and it just really came to be. And I was afraid we were going to lose that top 3 after that wreck, but just super happy. We're back in the top 3 after that Atlanta run wasn't our show, so super happy to be back here, and just a good race overall for the 8 team.
Yeah, and you rebounded to 3rd in spite of some not only late race drama, but some drama earlier after a green flag pit stop. You lose it at a turn 4 and trap yourself a lap down. What was your mindset when that whole thing happened?
Well, I knew it was a long race, so I knew I still had time to go at it, get back up there, because I knew I had the speed. I knew I had the speed to get back up there, and stuff started just coming to be. And I knew we had a good long run truck and a good short run truck, and I felt like we could really get back up there. And unfortunately, I did trap my teammate a lap down there, but just a really good rebound for this truck, and we're more than excited to rebound for a top 3.
And a well-deserved top 3 it is. Next week, one of the bigger challenges that we face, the Lady in Black Darlington. What's your mindset? What's your expectations going into that race?
I'm actually super stoked to go there. Darlington's one of the more challenging tracks. I know iRacing updated it, made it a bit more looser, more fun. I feel like it's one of our better tracks actually on the schedule. So we expect to run good there. And I mean, going on to the season, we need to run good at every track heading into the chase. We really just got to perform.
And I know it's a throwback weekend as well. I know that there have been some throwbacks posted, but I'm not sure if yours has. If not, would you care to announce what kind of throwback you'll be running next week?
My throwback will be painted by MaxGrafix, but we'll be running. I don't know if some of you recall, but Jeff Gordon had a Superman car, and so we'll be running that car this Friday. So I'm excited to see it when MaxGrafix gets that. He never paints a bad car, so super excited to see that, and really looking forward to Darlington.
And we're looking forward to broadcasting it. Once again, congratulations on your third place finish. But of course, before I let you go, is there anybody else that you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, this whole night, this SimShots racing team was super cooperative. We helped each other out a ton. It was fun battling Mitchell there for a top 3. This team is really coming alive here late, and I think we're going to extend that point lead, and more just super happy to race each and every Friday night with these guys. Family for letting me race. All my family for watching. My mom, my grandfather. GTR Simulator. You can use GTR Sim for 10% off. SimShots and Buttkicker.
Well, once again, thank you for talking with us, Drew, and congratulations on that podium finish.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight's third place finisher, Andrew Himmelman. I'm going to run down to pick up tonight's runner-up, Matt Cherry, who had one heck of a pendulum night in the number 6 Amsoil Ford F-150. Matt Cherry, Peter Short, you got a copy?
I sure do.
Well, Matt, it seems like you were all over the racetrack here tonight. At times, you were up there inside the top 5 battling for positions, and then you got caught out, and you went all the way to the back half of the field, and you worked your way up, finishing second with some late race things going your way. Tell us about your night.
Well, it wasn't the greatest night for us. We wasn't any good on the long run. We was better off. We was better on the short run. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it to turn off the exit. I mean, it was just so tight. It's hard to do anything when you got a truck like that.
Well, it definitely was able to work out well for you there in the end with some late race cautions involving some of the drivers up towards the front. How important was it to kind of restart where you restarted there for probably the last 2 or 3 restarts, because you picked up spots every time?
Yeah, I could really drive it in hard on the outside on a restart, and that's where I made up most of my positions. You know, I was timing the leader just right, because I knew about every time he was going to go, and every time he did, you know, it would just help me gain positions. And I came all the way from the back to the front several times tonight, but it was just one spot short.
Yeah, one spot short, but Ben Izenga put in one spectacular race in the 07 machine, so nothing to be too upset about here tonight, but we're going to Darlington next week. It's a throwback race. What are your thoughts about going to Darlington here next week?
I like Darlington. I've run a few races there. You know, I ain't never ran the truck there. I mean, that's going to be new for me. I've run the cup car and stuff there, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, the cup car's loose there. These might be a little tighter.
Yeah, well, we will definitely find out next week. It is a throwback race. Will we see a throwback scheme on the number 6 truck? And would you care to divulge what that throwback scheme might be?
Yeah, if I do a throwback, I'm probably going to throw it back to Jimmy Johnson for all the compliments he's done. All
right. Well, we hope to see a Jimmy Johnson inspired truck next week at Darlington on the number 6 machine. But before we let you go, any shout outs you like to give out?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Chris and all the admins for putting this together because, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here on Friday nights racing. And, they do a heck of a job keeping everything lined out. So all credit goes to them.
All right. Well, Matt, congratulations on finishing in second here tonight at Richmond, and we'll see you next week at Darlington.
All righty. We'll see y'all later.
All right. Well, folks, that's going to do it for our second place interview with driver of the number 6 machine, Matt Cherry. Now, time for Drew Eisenman to catch up with tonight's race winner of the Beer Street Journal 200, Mr. Ben Izenga. Drew.
Ben Izenga, Drew Eisman up here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Sure, I got you.
Well, Ben, congratulations on your first race win of the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Just give us a general rundown of how it went down for you.
Well, I've always done pretty well at Richmond. I have some little tricks that I use here and there that work in most cars. Some of them weren't working tonight. Some of them were, so that was awesome. But I was really happy when I heard James took the Buttkicker challenge because I knew that gave me a bit of a buffer before he got back to me. I knew that he was my only competition that was going to keep with me on the long run. So I just basically tried to lay a gap down there, and then he got back to me, and then it was scary.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on, I think, the point in which your potential victory now realized was most uncertain was when that 9 took 2 tires and got out in front of you during one of those final caution pit stops. What was your mindset when he did that? And then when not only was he maintaining that lead, but it took a lap car for you to regain that lead, and then he stayed on your bumper even after that. Just give us a whole take on exactly how you saw that.
Yeah, I knew all night, all through practice and everything, that me and James were very, very similar speeds. We did some longer runs together in practice and did some qualifying runs together and stuff, and I knew we were really, really close. So yeah, he took 2. I didn't really have that option because I was on 65, 68 lap old tires. But I didn't really think they were going to stick like they did, and then it kind of worked out for him, but I was able to get by him, and then some misfortune happened for him, but pulled off the win anyways.
And another thing that we were kind of watching late in the race with about 80 to go, or a little more than 80 to go, a bunch of guys came down pit road. You didn't. Were you worried that those guys were going to be able to make it the rest of the way, or was that not a factor for you?
Not really. I have pretty solid fuel numbers, and I knew that we couldn't make it from there. Once I knew that we could make it, I went in, and that's when you saw everybody else kind of follow me down. But yeah, I wasn't really concerned about it. The thing I was concerned about was getting shuffled to the back because I didn't want to lose my track position, really.
And next weekend, another challenging track in Darlington. What are your thoughts going into that race?
Well, here's the thing. I am terrible at Darlington. And I was looking at the playoff points, and I realized that I'm in very precarious position. I'll put it that way. So I knew that I needed to win tonight, and then luckily I pulled it off. But it's going to be ugly for me next week, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of those tracks that can be a real challenge. It's a throwback weekend, though. Would you care to tell us, if you're planning on running a throwback scheme, and if so, what that scheme will be?
Probably am. Haven't thought about it yet. I'll get back to you guys on that.
All right. Sounds good, Ben. Well, once again, congratulations on your first victory tonight. I mean, I've talked to you enough. It's about darn time. But, you've had so much pace all season long. It's great to see that number 07 in victory lane. Before I let you go, is there anybody that you would like to give a shout out to?
I got to thank my teammates at S2R, Matt and James and Bill, who couldn't be here tonight. Fatal Concepts. Got to thank all the series sponsors, Stay Tuned Sports, everyone else who sponsors all the races, and you guys for broadcasting, everyone on my truck, Purpose Driven Cycling, and I think that's about it.
Well, all right, Ben. And again, congratulations, and thanks for talking with us.
Thanks, Drew.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our post-race interviews. We only have one more thing left to do here tonight, and that is to go through tonight's final finishing order here around Richmond International Raceway. Let's bring them up here, and there you go. Ben Izenga in the 07 machine takes home the Beer Street Journal 200. Matt Cherry finishing in second. Andrew Himmelman coming home in third. Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion, coming home in fourth. Doug Neal rounding out your top five. Jamar Dumas, kind of a quiet night out of the number 28 machine, but solidly inside the top 10 throughout the night, finishing sixth. Justin White, who had a topsy-turvy night in the number 2, comes home seventh. Ben Adams was able to get one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards late in the race to get himself a top 8 finish. Travis White, and how about Garrett Gleason? I said, hey, maybe G Money can sneak away with a top 10 here tonight. Sure enough, the number 7 machine does round out your top 10 there, Drew.
And Nathan Maurer, I mean, it felt like he was in the top 5 all night, and then had that late race problem coming out of turn 2. Unfortunately, does not bring home a top 10 in that 971. Steven Doziak comes home 12th. Jason Shu, despite that late race kind of incident off of turn 2 as well, heartburn turn, if it were the Roval, would be the exit of turn 2 tonight. But Jason Shu brings home 13th. Nicholas Bradley in 14th. Kyle Lewis in 15th. And now the guys that got into substantial problems, we know what happened. We saw what happened to James Lorello in that 9 truck after an incredible attempt at the Buttkicker Challenge. He'll bring home 16th position. Matt Vanderkoy brings home 17th. Philip Scott with that incredible attempt to defend his position over Matt Cherry didn't work out. That number 99 brings home, I believe, 18th position. Jeff Price in the 14 and 19th, and then Evan Burke in that number 43 rounds out our top 20.
And taking you through the rest of the field here tonight, in the 21st position was Christopher Darling, 104 laps down. Evan Bush Basher in his first race with the league, finishing 22nd. Brian Bradley, 23rd. Tristan Maher, 24th. Monty Glover Jr., the number 10, 25th. Todd Kirkwood, I think it was his debut here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. He finishes in 26th. And rounding out your 27-car grid here tonight is Vincent Valvano, involved in a very early race accident. Well, folks, that's going to just about do it for us here tonight on 3 Wide TV, the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Make sure you join us next Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, for our race at Darlington Raceway. Going to be a throwback race. Big shout out to tonight's race sponsor, of course, the Beer Street Journal. We had 2 Beer Street Journal last calls as well to add on to that. Make sure you check out them, beerstreetjournal.com, as well as all the other series sponsors. Speaking of series sponsors, how about the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award? I'm going to get this right this week, folks, because the Beer Street Journal, not Beer Street Journal, the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award, that doesn't work. How about that? We'll remove that graphic. That Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award goes to 2 drivers, Garrett Gleason and Jason Shu. Both of those drivers picking up 14 positions on their way to 10th and 13th place, respectively. Make sure you check out our friends over at Taz Racing Customs for all your custom diecast needs, whether it be an iRacing car or a real-life car that you want a scheme of. Our friends over at Taz Racing Customs will be able to help you out with that. Big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles we bring you each and every week here on the channel. But for myself, Peter Short, Drew Wiseman, and everyone else in the 3 Wide TV family, stay safe, have a good night, and we shall see ya!